I think we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. If you'd all please rise, Reverend Bill Gilmore with St. Mary's Episcopal Church will lead us in prayer this evening. Thank you and welcome.
Good evening. Dear Lord God, we thank you for all the blessings that we've received in this peaceful and beautiful community that we live in. God, please protect and bless all our first responders and all those others that so faithfully serve our community and be with them each day. Dear Lord God, be with this council. Provide them the peace and love and guide them with wisdom as they discern the needs of the community. That with love and respect conduct their business that they're tasked with. That with the goodwill of all, they can do that good things that for all that live in this community. And for a little plagiarism, this is the Feast of St. Francis. And this is a prayer from St. Francis, which is a good leadership prayer. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. O divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console others, to be understood as to understand others, to be loved as to love others. For it is in giving that we receive, and it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. Councilwoman Carr, could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Carumba?
Here.
Councilman Purdon?
Here.
Councilwoman Carr?
Here.
Mayor Simmons?
Here.
Councilman Corey?
Here.
Councilman Gibson? Councilman Forbes?
Here. Okay, great. Well, welcome, everybody. We're going to start tonight with public comment on agenda items. Any member of the public that would like to speak, please come on over to the podium at this time.
Mr. Mayor, with respect, there are a lot of people here tonight for a lot of items on the agenda relative to the mayor and council member items. And under the normal rules, the agenda for the meeting should be approved by council. And I am suggesting that because we have the Bonita Springs High School Bull Sharks with us tonight, that we start the agenda with items number 10, and then go from there to item number 11, so that those that are in attendance and those who are watching on the community channel can best participate or listen to the discussion. So with that, I would move the reordering of the agendas to start with items 10 and 11.
So 10, you're talking proclamations and presentations?
Right,
Okay, and 11, mayor and council member items?
right.
But I
Okay.
thought when we had zoning, we put zoning first because of.
We have attorneys that are here with the meter running.
Right.
But we have voters here who live in Bonita Springs and that are watching on
Okay.
television, and our first duty ought to be to them.
Thank you. There's been a motion made. Is there a second to that? Hearing none. Public comment. Rick, you're up.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Carl Swing was a man of faith, and I'm sure his soul is resting quietly in the arms of Jesus. I believe that. I'm a man of faith also. We have a big crowd here tonight. I found out that if you gave a big contribution to some politician that was running for office, that does not make a special interest or that it doesn't make any difference. He can still do favors for the guy to give him the money. So I was surprised at that. I thought if he gave somebody enough money that he had to recuse himself from commenting on his item. But anyways, thank you all. God bless us all.
Thank you. Other members of the public that would like to speak? Please come forward at this time. Dwight, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, council members, Dwight Essman, Paradise Road area. I want to address a couple of topics tonight. Perhaps and most importantly, this meeting should adjourn no later than 8:30. The most important vice presidential debate ever will begin at 9 p.m. And I think you should allow the city staff time to get home and watch it. I hope one of you will make that motion and that it'll pass 7-0. Honestly, no meeting should last more than 3 hours, and you won't get through everything tonight, but schedule it for next Wednesday. Finally, the food truck ordinance. You know my opinion, not now. You've heard my reasons, and I think you may hear some others. We need to give our local restaurants a chance to survive. Owners, cooks, and waitstaff need your help now. Some of you are going to say, let the free market determine who survives. But if that's true, why do we even need zoning laws? Not to mention a form-based code which tells landowners what they can build. Most of you on the council probably know why some people on this council want the ordinance passed, but the public may not. But if they connect the dots, they'll probably come to the same conclusion that I have. Some people who've expressed an interest in opening a food truck park have made sizable contributions to the candidates running for council, and those council people seem to be the ones most in favor of the change. Now, I could be wrong. But if that ordinance passes and it turns out that the people who are the big donors are the ones who are asking for the permits to open a food truck park, then my assumptions will be proven correct. Thank you for your attention.
Great, thank you, Dwight. Other members of the public that would like to speak? Please come forward. Good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Robert Pritt. I do have a question. I'm here on 7B. Will we have an opportunity to testify tonight on 7B, or do we need to be heard now?
Unless,
Yes.
yes, I was just going to say unless there's something, yes.
On 7B, then? I'll wait. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. Other members of the public that would like to speak, please come forward. Welcome, Bill.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. For the record, I'm Bill Simons, Senior Vice Commander at the Benitez Springs VFW Post 4254. Our VFW has incurred $137,000 in losses since the shutdown and restrictions. Our bars and restaurants are nonprofit organizations that serves our Bonita Springs veterans and veterans nationally. I cannot speak to how much our nonprofit organizations are doing, like the Moose or the Eagles or the Elks and the American Legion have lost, but they are substantial, if not greater than the VFW. We all serve food and we all serve our community. I am asking you, ladies and gentlemen of our council, to please help us here in Bonita Springs and our community as we struggle to recover from our losses. Please do not vote to expand our food truck ordinance at this time until we recover our losses. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Thanks for being here. Other members of the public that would like to speak? Marty, welcome.
Thank you. My name is Marty Roach. I'm representing the Bonita Beach Association, and I want to talk about the food trucks also. We were approached in the spring by the organization here called Waldrop Engineering Corporation, and they are actually planning on putting a centennial park like they have down in Naples on Bayshore Boulevard. They gave us the area of the property, but it's right off of Bonita Beach Road, about a half a mile off of the island. And they're going to have a big area there. We're going to have all food trucks. And they're going to have a restaurant, a little restaurant there. And they're going to have all this stuff. This is the stuff they have. And they actually have a rendering excuse me. That's the land. It's about a half a mile off of the island, right before you get to the 7-Eleven. It's on the corner there. And this is a rendering of what they had. So I'm thinking of why would we need more food trucks all over there when they're actually going to put a food truck park like down at Centennial Park down in Naples? They came to us and asked us if we would approve this. We didn't see anything that was wrong with it since it's in a commercial area right on Bonita Beach Road. And we gave them our blessing saying that it was fine, that we weren't going to object to it. So I'm assuming that they're going to proceed with this now, or at least they're proceeding with it. They wouldn't go to this, much trouble in order not to go ahead with it. But this is certainly something that should be looked into, because if they're going to have this there and they're going to have a whole food truck like Centennial Park, I don't know if anybody's been down to Naples, but it's a great area down there. It serves its purpose. It does a community service, but it's in one area down there. I think, I don't mind passing them around, but you guys can take a look at them at some point. But this, to me, makes more sense than all the other stuff that you're talking about.
Great. Thank you, Marty.
Thank you.
Other members of the public that would like to speak, please come forward. Welcome.
Thank you. Chip Greenwood, Buffalo Chips. Thank you, Mayor and council people, for giving me the opportunity to speak. It's about food trucks, of course, again. And I'm also did attend the Bonita Springs Downtown Alliance meeting, 2 on Wednesday, and that brought a light to this situation with food trucks. And Councilman Gibson was there attending, and he was listening to his constituents and what they felt like. I appreciate Mike being there. And so I'm here kind of representing, BSDA and Buffalo Chips and other restaurateurs in the area. These guys did answer some questions that I had before, like why is this all going down? Why is this so important? And I understand now, because literally there's no good reason unless you have developers, like this gentleman said, that are ready to invest in an area. So that's the only reason I can see why we're putting this so far ahead, especially what's going on in downtown. My whole point here, obviously, is to keep Bonita Springs exempt from food trucks. And I can only see that it's going to actually deter other investments from that area. If you start putting a lot of food trucks in old Bonita Springs, this beautiful place that we've created over 30 years and invested millions of dollars through Lee County, through CRA, before we even a city. And we spent $2.5 million for the Bamboo Village and the Imperial Landing that never went down. And if we start, putting these food trucks in, I don't think we're going to get those big developers in there like, Jack was going to do 15 years ago. You guys remember that. So it's not so much financial. Well, it is financial too for those little taco places and pizza places that are hurting right now. But just think the image that we're portraying. I think it'll deter future investment in the area. I really do. Yeah, it's not about free markets, Jesse. It is your decision to make those decisions for the community. You're supposed to be connected to your constituents. It's not about following your will or free markets. It's about listening to what your people want in the area. So, you have to draw a line somewhere, what type of business you want in Bonita Springs, obviously. What's next? We want tattoo shops and massage parlors and a strip club. You have to draw a line someplace. So this is why we were paid to make decisions like this. So it just feels like we're selling out when we're doing food trucks. That's my feeling. Like we can't get these other vacant retail sites filled right now. Seriously, we've had a lot of blighted areas right now that need to be filled. So that's my 2 cents, and I hope you guys will keep Bonita Springs exempt from the food trucks, that area, the downtown area, and Little Hickory Island. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thanks for being with us tonight. Other members of the public that would like to speak?
Mayor and City Council, Martha Simons for the record.
Councilwoman, welcome.
Long time no see. Good to see everybody here. Nice to have a big full meeting of old friends and new friends. Chip brought up a very good point. Maybe it's not the time to do this. Maybe at a later date. we're struggling with our revenues coming into the city. We need to clean up the flooding. Our taxpayers here, including those restaurants that pay taxes who have brick and mortar restaurants, like Old 41 where I love to go, or Buffalo Chips who gives back to the community. Sorello's, sushi and Italian, really? I love that. Anyhow, there are a lot of restaurants in Bonita Springs, they're struggling. And my husband spoke to our nonprofit community organizations like the VFW, the American Legion, the Elks, the Moose, the Eagles, who have been shut down for months. And these people give back. They're nonprofit. They give back to this community and help the families here that are struggling, help Cafe of Life. They help the veterans. They help Bonita Springs Assistance Office. You know, they help people with heart conditions. I mean, they do so much for our community. But for our VFW who have lost $137,000, that's a lot to overcome. And then to ask, oh, it's okay for people from somewhere else that don't pay property taxes, don't contribute to BSU water or sewer, don't contribute back to the community, don't hire employees from Bonita Springs, which I know a lot of these restaurants do, don't take care of their families, because I know these restaurants, they take care of families. And also we have to talk about also the country clubs. They hire people from Bonita Springs too, and their revenues have gone down. So I like food trucks. I'll go out to Golden Gate. There's a guy out there that makes something I really love. Yeah, that's good. We provide for food trucks already. We have permits for food trucks. I think it is a little restrictive, but let's look at that at a later date when we can all recover. Because Bonita Springs is a wonderful city, and we've got to support our people. We have an election coming up, hate to remind you, but this is a very big issue in this town. And we got to support our own people here right now for the next 6 months. God, maybe it's a year or 2 years, who knows? This thing's crazy, it's out of line. You know, the COVID virus has really affected our businesses, and we got to support our business community. So thank you guys, really appreciate it, but please hold off for a while.
Thank you. Other members of the public that would like to speak? Don, welcome.
Dawn Konsikowski, for the record, Little Hickory Island. I just want to thank the council for listening to the facts that the residents put on the records, for our Congresswoman, or Councilwoman representing our district and protecting us. We have deed restrictions on the island which are constitutionally protect us. We have constitutional rights, and our deed restrictions protect those rights. And just as gated communities have deed restrictions that protect their residential areas of their neighborhoods, we also do. It has nothing to do with 500 emails that the city council receives, as one of the new councilmen mentioned. It has to do with the facts that are in those emails. And I just want to thank you, and I just want to confirm that I'll be able to put more facts on the record during the public hearing portion. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you, Don. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Bonnie Whittemore. Just have one comment on 9E. We really would like you to approve the transfer of the money from the general budget to get the Good Bread Grocery and Dixie Moon moving. The city, we've been looking at that for a long time. So the thought process behind historic preservation and whatever was to move that money so we can get moving with that empty, beautiful building. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Bonnie. Other members of the public that would like to speak, please come forward.
Mayor, City
Welcome.
Council, thank you again for the opportunity to speak. I'm Anthony Bacos with Old 41 Restaurant in Bonita. I guess pretty much it's been said, but I'm going to reiterate it. The restaurant industry, not just in Bonita, not just in Florida, not just in many other states, basically the whole entire country is under siege right now due to the coronavirus. And although food trucks have a time and place, right now we are a local community with struggling businesses, and our income is down. And there needs to be a little bit of help for us to basically see through this. We do pay taxes. We live by strict codes. We are governed by the health department. And right now, in order for us to continue and feed our families, as most of these are family businesses, I think there's a time and place for everything. And just to reiterate what Chip said, now is not the time for food trucks. They can be revisited at a later date, but realistically, having these going up and down the street without the requirements or the overhead that a regular brick and mortar restaurant would have to expense out, I think is just wrong at this point. So there really is not much more to say, but we do need a little bit of help to get through this. And again, it's not just, I think, this city. I think Florida and the entire hospitality industry needs a little help to get back on track here. And it's not a quick cure. It's gonna be a while. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thanks for being here. Other members of the public that would like to speak? Anybody else? Okay, seeing none, we are going to move on to zoning and land use items. Derek?
Okay, the first item is a first reading and public hearing of an ordinance of the City of Bonita Springs providing for adoption of a comprehensive plan amendment to the future land use element to amend the future land use map from City of Bonita Springs Resource Protection, Lee County outlying suburban and wetlands to Coconut Village and Resource Protection, providing for an amendment to Coconut Village future land use category, providing for intent, providing for severability, providing for an effective date.
Move to approve the first reading.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion to approve in a second. Council, further discussion?
Okay,
Roll.
you need to
Amy?
open up the public hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. Public hearing on this, my apologies. Addison? You get that? Public hearing portion on this. Okay, seeing none, council, any further discussion at this time? Addison, you're still good? Okay, roll call, please.
Councilwoman Corumba.
Aye.
Councilman Kern.
Aye.
Councilwoman Carr.
Aye.
Mayor Simmons.
Aye.
Councilman Corey.
Aye.
Councilman Gibson.
Aye.
Councilman Forbes.
Aye.
Okay. Item B, Derek.
Okay. Item B is a first reading and public hearing of an ordinance of the City of Bonita Springs rescinding the development order for the Bonita Bay Development of Regional Impact in accordance with Section 380.115, Sub 2, Florida statutes, providing for repeal of conflicting ordinances or resolutions and providing for an effective date.
Move to approve first reading.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion to approve in a second. Council, is there any further discussion?
Public comment.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay, just giving council first right. Public portion, public hearing, comments? Okay, last call for public comments, last call for council comments. Roll call, please.
Councilman Kern. Aye. Councilwoman Carr.
Aye.
Mayor Simmons.
Aye.
Councilman Corey.
Aye.
Councilman Gibson.
Aye.
Councilman Forbes.
Aye.
Councilwoman Corumba.
Aye.
Okay, moving on to item 7, first reading and public hearing in the following zoning ordinances. Derek?
A zoning ordinance of the City of Bonita Springs to rezone 30.51 plus or minus acres from commercial plan development, CPD, residential plan development, RPD, mobile home plan development, MHPD, and agricultural, AG2, to residential plan development and commercial plan development, CPD, to allow a public boat ramp, wet and dry boat slips, a continuing care facility, CCF, containing a maximum of 300 independent living facility, ILF units, and a 75-bed assisted living facility, ALF, or 300 multifamily dwelling units at the northwest corner of Coconut Road and Coconut Point Resort Drive, and providing for an effective date.
Motion to move to second reading.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion to move to a second reading in a second. Council, is there further comments? Okay. Members of the public? Okay, seeing none, roll call, please.
Councilwoman Carr.
Aye.
Mayor Simmons.
Aye.
Councilman Corey.
Aye.
Councilman Gibson.
Aye.
Councilman Forbes.
Aye.
Councilwoman Corumba.
Aye.
Councilman Kern.
Aye.
Okay.
Derek?
Next item, a zoning ordinance of the City of Bonita Springs to rezone 1.82 plus or minus acres from industrial plan development, IPD, to industrial plan development, IPD, for two parcels located at 10971 and 10979 Enterprise Avenue, Bonita Springs, Florida, 34135, and providing for an effective date. One more item, council, there was an error an omission in the ordinance. One of the uses that was approved and recommended by the zoning board was post office. It is not included in the schedule of uses, but it was intended to be there, so will be there at the second reading.
Motion to move to second reading.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion to approve, move to second reading in a second. Council, is there any further comments? Members of the public, yes, please.
Thank you, Mayor Simmons, members of the council. My name is Robert Pritt. I'm with the law firm of Retzel and Andrus. I represent Mediterra Community Association, Inc., the master association for Mediterra and owner of the property directly across the street from the proposed development. We have been granted status as a party intervener. On behalf of the Mediterra community and its neighbors, its neighborhoods, and the properties near the proposed development property, the Board of Mediterra opposes the application as it currently exists. This is quite unusual in that Mediterra is not opposing the application in its entirety, but only the parts where the proposed industrial use and structure will be allowed to infringe unreasonably upon the existing single-family residential uses right over the berm. The community is concerned about really two things mainly, and that is the height that would be permitted. It's now proposed at 40 feet, as I recall, and I think it's a little bit too high. We think it's too high by about 10 feet, certainly too high by 5 feet, because you can see you'd be able to see the roof of the building or part of the building from the residential neighborhood and from the streets in Mediterra. So we'd ask that it be no more than 30 feet, 35 at the absolute max. There was some talk about 32 at the zoning hearing. Secondly, also and very important, is the orientation. We do not want to have any doors or windows that can be open on the east side, which is the side that faces Mediterra. This has been a matter of some contention at the zoning hearing. I'm sure you'll hear more about it at the second reading and hearing. The idea there is to alleviate any dust, noise, airborne materials, and noxious odors emitting to the Mediterra neighborhoods to the east. Some of the other concerns have, we think, been taken care of. No outdoor work, and a few other things like that. The schedule of uses, we want to make sure that that stays and is not expanded. Finally, this is an issue of compatibility. There's nothing less compatible than an industrial use and structure and a neighborhood single-family use and structure. And since zoning is all about compatibility, we would ask that these couple of things be done, the things I mentioned about the height and about the orientation, be done in order to alleviate the incompatibility as much as possible to the adjoining neighborhood. We're glad to answer any questions if you have them. Thank you.
Council?
We have a motion on the floor.
Yeah. Is there any questions? Okay. Other members of the public that would like to speak?
If I may, Mayor and Council?
Yes.
My name is Anthony Piers with the law firm of Woodward, Piers, and Lombardo, and I represent two individuals that live in Mediterra, in one very close proximity to the property, another one nearby, along the westernmost portion abutting this industrial area. And we echo the concerns and support the concerns and objections of the Mediterra Association, the compatibility issue, that the project as proposed now is not consistent and not compatible with the adjacent neighborhood, the height issue, the noise issues, the garage door orientation, and we, again, oppose it as it currently exists, and we'll see you at the second reading and public hearing. Thank you for the opportunity, and I submitted a letter September 29th requesting party status, and I'll follow it up with Mr. Rooney as far as any recommendation he makes to the mayor and council.
Okay.
So thank you very kindly.
Wonderful, thank you. Any other members of the public that would like to speak on this item? Please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Rodney Chase, and I am the president of the Homeowners Association at Mediterra. I will be brief. I simply want to stress that the interests of the community inside Mediterra's walls is identical with that of those who seek to enhance the whole area of the Bonita Springs. Our objection is very simply down to two things. The building is unnecessarily high since it is absolutely adjacent to Mediterra. And secondly, the staff made a recommendation to the zoning board that there should be no open doors facing Mediterra. That recommendation was not approved by the zoning board. We would like to ask for it to be reconsidered. Finally, I think Mediterra tries to work to its absolute maximum with the council and maintain the total development of this area in a harmonious way. Thank you for your hearing, sir.
Wonderful. Thank you, sir. Other members of the public on this item?
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Tim Richards. I'm the general manager for the Mediterra Community Association, and I'm the one that receives the countless letters and emails that I'm sure you're all accustomed to receiving. We have many residents who are very concerned about the impact that this project will have on the community. One, the quality of life, particularly in that area, potential impact on home values, and we've been trying to work with the developer to get them to make some of the changes that we think would make a difference to this project. So I reiterate the same things that you just heard from Mr. Chase and as well from Mr. Pritt. Thank you.
Wonderful. Other members of the public that would like to speak on this item? Okay, seeing none, there's a motion to move to second reading and a second. Council, is there further discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Mayor Simmons.
Aye.
Councilman Corey.
Aye.
Councilman Gibson.
Aye.
Councilman Forbes.
Aye.
Councilwoman Carumba.
Aye.
Councilman Purdon.
Aye.
Councilwoman Carr.
Aye.
Okay, item C, Derek.
Okay. A zoning ordinance of the City of Bonita Springs amending the existing zoning for the Bonita Village mixed-use plan development, amending the provisions relating to permitted height along the northern and eastern boundaries of the project, amending the master concept plan, and amending the schedule of deviations on 19 plus or minus acres along the north of Bonita Beach Road, east of Imperial River Road, and west of Meadowlark Lane, and providing for an effective date.
Motion to move to second reading?
Second.
It's been a motion to move to second reading and a second. Council, is there further discussion? Okay, members of the public that would like to speak at this time, please come forward on this item.
Yes, I'm Rick Steinmeier, and this project was approved 4 years ago, and now he wants to change it. Putting a 75-foot high building next to a residential neighborhood, his shadow on the north side of this building is going to freeze out the neighbor. But so that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Other members of the public that would like to speak? Good evening and welcome.
Good evening. For the record, Amy Thibault with Pavis Law Firm. We represent the applicant. We would like to just put our comment on the record that the request for Bonita Village is not to increase heights on the property. It's simply to reconfigure where the buildings are going to be located in response to voluntary compliance with the Bonita Beach Road Vision Study and Overlay. Currently, the applicant is not bound to comply with the vision study, but is proactively seeking to do so. And as a result is just looking to reorganize the buildings, and that's what this request is stemming from. So we look forward to seeing you at the next public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Other members of the public that would like to speak on this item? Okay, seeing none. Council, any further comments? Roll call, please.
Councilman Corey.
No.
Councilman Gibson.
Aye.
Councilman Forbes.
Aye.
Councilwoman Carumba.
Aye.
Councilman Purdon.
Aye.
Councilwoman Carr.
Aye.
Mayor Simmons.
Aye. All right, Derek, you are on a roll.
All right.
We're going to move now for people following along. Roman numeral 8.
Public hearing to consider adoption of the following amendments to Bonita Springs Comprehensive Plan. First, an ordinance of the City of Bonita Springs providing for adoption of a comprehensive plan amendment relating to downtown redevelopment area, amending the future land use and future land use maps. I'm sorry, I apologize. The future land use element in future land use map series, transportation, conservation, coastal management, housing and capital improvement elements, providing for intent, providing for severability, providing for an effective date.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion to approve to, and a second. Is there members of the public that would like to speak? I
Good
guess you
evening, Mayor.
qualify.
and-
How you
Good
doing?
morning. Good morning. Good evening, Mayor and City Council.
Same thing.
We do have Dr. Banyan available via Zoom. She had a short presentation if you would like to hear it. Otherwise, you're welcome to proceed.
I say proceed.
Okay.
We've got folks waiting.
Thank you.
Okay. Other members of the public that would like to speak?
Good evening.
Welcome.
Thank you. Francesca Pasadomo for the record. I'm with Richard Jovanovich, Coleman, Yvonne, and Kester. We represent West Bay Club, an owner on Little Hickory Island. The owner is operating the property as a beach club and has for some time. The use is consistent with the current zoning, which is C1. Your comprehensive plan amendment before you today proposes to designate it, as Little Hickory Island multifamily. That will create an inconsistency. It will not allow for really redevelopment of the beach club or expansion of the footprint or anything like that. So we just ask that you look at this property. The site address is 26194 Hickory Boulevard, and consider extending the commercial designation to this property.
Okay.
Could you say the address again?
26194 Hickory Boulevard. And I'll ask Richard if he wants to add anything to the record.
Great, thank you.
Good morning, good afternoon or evening, what time is it? Briefly, I must be.
Same thing.
I must be in trouble, she called me Richard. I just want to add that, obviously, the West Bay Club was developed long before the change in the comprehensive plan designation. We learned of the change in the comprehensive plan designation as we were coming in to make modifications to the existing building. That obviously was prevented because of the designation as multifamily. We're simply asking to be treated like the other commercial properties, that we would not be able to expand the size of the property. It would just be required, we would be allowed to redevelop that as a beach club, similar to the other beach club properties that you have designated commercial, and we just ask that we be treated the same.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other members of the public that would like to speak, please come forward.
Sorry, go ahead.
I want to make space.
It's okay now. Thank you.
Good evening, for the record, Neil Montgomery. I'm actually not sure, and I thought trying to clarify with Jackie whether the map amendment that I'm concerned about is under A or B, but she said they'll figure it out, and I can go ahead and talk now.
Fair enough. Carry on, Counselor.
So,
Who am I to get in the way?
Alexis Crespo is here. She's going to pass out the graphics so we all know what property that we're talking about. Ms. Crespo was here when you had the transmittal hearing, and she discussed this property and said, we would like this property to be considered as a separate amendment where we can be fully evaluated and not a part of a general broad brush amendment. While I wasn't here, I was told, and I confirmed it with Mr. Rooney, that, well, you don't have an application in, so we don't want to end up a year or two from now and it's still kind of in limbo land. So you need to get an application in. Ms. Crespo and Waldrop worked diligently. We had our public information meeting, which some of you may be aware of, and the application has been submitted. Along with the application for a plan amendment, there's an application for an annexation. Some of you are aware of this property and recognize that while it's under common ownership, it has an odd split between the city and the county. And I've had conversations with some of you, and you have expressed a concern or desire that since those folks are going to be traveling through the city and really consider themselves part of the city, they should be in the city. And so it doesn't make any sense to do two separate plan amendments, one in the county and one in the city under very different regulations, and hope that it all ends up well in the end. So we've submitted an annexation petition, and I just might add that in speaking with Mr. Rooney, he's made it clear that none of you are desirous of the annexation agreements that have precipitated some concerns, and so he said, keep it pithy. And in conformance with his direction, we did that so that you don't encounter future problems. So what we would like to do is to have this particular property taken out of the pending map amendment and allow it to proceed forward so that the property, both within the city and what will be in the city, can all be considered at once, and that there'll be sufficient data and analysis to allow you to do that. And as you know, we'll have many more public hearings, and I would note that Ms. Crespo in our public information meeting committed to the residents that she would meet with them individually and as often as they wanted. So, and I know she'll follow up on that. So there's many, many more meetings to go. We want to work with the community, and we want to reach a reasonable result. So that's our request. Thank you.
Okay. Other members of the public on 8A? Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Council, is there further discussion?
And council, before you take a vote, for either of those requests would require changes to the ordinances, and since this is the final adoption, if you wish to make those changes, we would need direction and to continue the adoption to another hearing.
Okay.
I would like to make a motion that we consider both of those changes.
Second.
Okay.
Because I'd like some feedback from you. I mean, I'm not really ready to, I'm definitely on the beach club issue, we should make them compatible with the other beach clubs that are there. This other one I don't really understand very well because it's just the first time that I'm seeing it, so I'd like some feedback from you, but I think it would be better if we postponed it, the adoption until the next meeting.
I just say, I kind of agree with Amy in the sense that I'd love to clearly.
In the microphone, Jesse. Thank you.
How's everyone doing? I would like to fully understand the ramifications, both positive, negative, or sideways, in regards to the annexation component of it. So, you know, if you guys want to get into that, that's fine, and I would be comfortable voting, but if not, I'm good with what Amy said on getting a little more time on it.
I think we would, staff and I would recommend that we continue it so we could present that information. There had been discussions, both raised at public hearings in the past and with staff from the applicants, but until we got direction from the council to even consider those, making those additions, we haven't had time to process it and actually show it to you in a way that you could comprehend it. So
That would be continuing both A and B?
that, we haven't got to B. I want to keep the two hearings separate. I believe actually Ms. Montgomery's issue is with item B on the agenda, but it would be the same recommendation for both ordinances. Yes.
Here.
For clarification, Jacqueline Ginson for the record, item A is relative to the downtown redevelopment area. Item B is relative to the general amendments, which do include the changes to the future land use map that were brought up by the public.
And that would include the Little Hickory Island items.
Correct.
Okay. So I think basically you want to continue the second hearing.
Okay.
So what we can do is vote on this item if you prefer to move forward with the downtown amendments.
Yeah.
Then open up the second hearing, incorporate the testimony from the first hearing into the second, so we don't have to hear it all again.
Yep.
And then you could restate the motions.
So we're voting on A and not B?
Yeah, so you
Yeah.
can withdraw the current motion and then move to adopt the current downtown amendments.
Move to withdraw the current motion and to proceed with approving with item A.
Okay.
Second.
We're talking about 2010-297. Is that what we're talking about?
Yes,
The last
the general
Okay.
comp plan amendments. yes.
Okay.
Okay. Whatever Rooney said, we have a motion and a second.
B, C,
Is there further discussion? Do we need to let the public speak again on this? I just want to be sure. Okay, dynamite. Okay, roll call, please.
Councilman Gibson?
Aye.
Councilman Forbes? Aye. Councilwoman Corumba?
Aye.
Councilman Purdon?
Aye.
Councilwoman Carr?
Aye.
Mayor Simmons?
Aye.
Councilman Corey?
Aye.
And
Okay,
Okay.
moving right along to item B.
An ordinance of the City of Bonita Springs, Florida, providing for adoption of a comprehensive plan amendment to amend the future land use element and future land use map series, transportation element and transportation map series, and housing, providing for intent, providing for severability, providing for an effective date.
motion to continue to the next meeting?
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion to continue this to the next meeting. Is there anybody that would like to speak on it that's here from the public?
could we just add to that motion, if there's no objection, to incorporate the record from the testimony from the last hearing?
Without objection.
Okay.
Although I can talk again if you want.
No.
Why not? All right. Okay. Roll call, please.
Councilman Forbes.
Aye.
Councilwoman Caramba.
One moment. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Never mind, I apologize. You're continuing it, please. Go ahead.
Okay. Do you want to clarify anything,
No,
Derek?
No.
Okay.
Councilwoman Caramba.
Aye. Aye.
Councilman Purdon.
Aye.
Councilwoman Carr.
Aye.
Mayor Simmons.
Aye.
Councilman Corey.
Aye.
Councilman Gibson.
Aye.
Okay, Derek, anything else? You've had,
Nope. I've had
The
my
floor
round.
for quite a
I'm gonna take
while,
break
but-
for, until we get to the food truck, okay?
okay, dynamite. Outstanding. Okay. Does anybody on the dais here need a short break? It says that in the notes, so I'm trying to follow the notes. Okay. We're going to move on to the consent agenda. Council, what's your pleasure?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, I'd like to pull item B, or I'd just like to make a state, I will not be voting on item B. I'll be abstaining.
I have quick comments on, I'm going to vote, we don't have to pull them on E, F, and G.
Okay? You wanted to pull E, F, and G?
No, I don't.
No, but you have comments. Okay.
Comments.
Okay, I would pull B so that you're not
Yeah, so
voting
we'll
on it.
pull B. Does anybody oppose if I pull
No,
B?
no.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Okay, so motion to approve A, C, D, E, F, G, H, I.
No, aye.
There's been a motion and a second.
No, there's an
Okay, roll call, please.
Councilwoman Caramba.
aye.
Councilman Purdon.
Aye.
Councilwoman Carr.
Aye.
Mayor Simmons.
Aye.
Councilman Corey.
Aye.
Councilman Gibson.
Aye.
Councilman Forbes.
Aye.
Okay, I just, there again, after speaking with Derek, I'm just pulling item B, just to let you know that I'll be abstaining from voting.
I'll move the B, and then we can go on to comments. Is that
Okay.
I move B.
Okay, there's been a motion to approve B and a second. Roll call, please.
Councilman Purdon.
Aye.
Councilwoman Carr.
Aye.
Mayor Simmons.
Abstention.
Councilman Corey.
Aye.
Councilman Gibson.
Aye.
Councilman Forbes.
Aye.
Councilwoman Caramba.
Aye.
Okay, Amy, you have the floor, and if other
Okay.
members have
Well,
comments,
I
we'll
just
go
want
there.
to comment that I'm just delighted that the Historic Preservation Board moved some funds that they had over to working on the Dixie Moon. It's one of these things that has been bothering me for a long time. So I do think that we can try to get some creative ideas there for how to proceed there. So I'm just happy that they sort of gave us a little help there, and I appreciate it. Actually, F is okay. I didn't really need to comment on it, but I'm glad that Antonio's continuing his work, and he'll help us with getting the government access cable channel even better than it is, and extending the Bonita TV 98. And again, I'm so glad to see this extension, the third extension of the agreement between the Lions Club to have a farmer's market on Wednesdays, because I think the community really is anxious to have areas where we can go out and live somewhat of a normal life. So that's a good sign there. And I'm just happy with all those things there.
Great.
I'm done.
Other members of the council, any comments? Okay, seeing none, we are going to move along to proclamations and presentations. Item 10A is a presentation of the Florida League of Cities Municipal Achievement Award by Shwanda Barnett with the Florida League of Cities.
Good evening, Mayor Simmons. Can
Good
you hear
evening.
me?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Can you all hear? Okay,
Yes.
great.
Hello there.
Hello.
Hang on,
Good
you got a big strip right down the middle of your face. We're gonna try to get rid of that.
How about now?
No, but I guess we can continue if we need
Is
to,
it-
but it'd be better if that stripe wasn't there.
Oh, okay. I'm
There
sorry.
we go, there we go. Now the
Oh,
floor is
good,
yours.
good. All right. All right, well, good evening, Mayor, council members, city clerk, staff, and residents. My name is Shwanda Barnett, and I am your Membership Relations Ambassador and Liaison to the Florida League of Cities. For those of you who don't know, the Florida League of Cities is the association representing all 411 Florida cities to the state and federal government. We provide our members with advocacy tools, resources, and training programs designed specifically for cities. And we annually host a competition to recognize cities, towns, and villages that rise to the top as the best in the state in 3 specific categories. Those categories consist of city spirit, Florida citizenship, and environmental stewardship. Today, it is a great honor for me to bring you greetings from the league and to present Bonita Springs with the Coveted Municipal Achievement Award for Environmental Stewardship. This prestigious award focuses on city programs that promote conservation, improve and protect environmental conditions, and provide environmental education and outreach. Your project was selected from entries all over the state, making it the best of the best. The City of Bonita Springs' winning entry was the Phelps Avenue Bioreactor Project. For your residents watching from home, I want to explain that your project was focused on reducing the amount of nitrogen along the Imperial River, which runs directly through the city, ultimately improving its overall water quality. The project is reported to be the first of its kind in the whole state of Florida. In addition to successfully reducing nitrogen levels and effectively improving overall water quality, it has applications for other communities as it has low aesthetic impact, is cost-effective, and easily scalable. The Florida Municipal Achievement Awards have recognized innovation and excellence in local government programs for over a decade. This is our 12th year. It is the highest award that we give to Florida cities. Your nomination was exceptional, and your innovative project not only improved the lives of your residents, but could potentially be scaled to improve water quality all over our state. We found that to be incredibly worthy of this major recognition. In addition to the trophy we sent, as a winner, Bonita Springs will be featured on the League's website, various social media outlets, and in our League's Quality Cities magazine. Normally, we'd present this award in person, and your city would have been recognized in a video at the League's annual conference this past August. Although our conference transitioned to just a virtual meeting due to COVID-19, we wanted to be certain to take the time out to formally celebrate this milestone with you and your residents and to congratulate your city on receiving this prestigious award. Where there's a will, there's a way, and this is my way of paying tribute to you. So now, on behalf of the Florida League of Cities, I am honored to present you with the 2020 Municipal Achievement Award for Environmental Stewardship. Congratulations to the beautiful city of Bonita Springs.
Thank you very much. And this is it right here. So I guess this is our version of the Super Bowl Cup. So for anybody after the meeting that would like to come up and see the Super Bowl Cup and the award, please do. I mean, this is obviously a team effort. And Matt Feeney, when we didn't have and... And it's one of these things, and you know, Matt's modest, and I would like to hear a few words from him. I'm not quite so modest, but the reality is we didn't have all the answers going forward with this, but we knew there were a lot more questions than there were answers, but we stood up and did it, and that's a lot, in large part, almost entirely, you gave us the confidence, Matt, to go forward, so please, would love to hear your thoughts.
We're just excited that it works, and
There again, being modest. God bless him.
You know, the second phase that City Council stood by, I think, will also be just as will be just as interesting, and it's a great project, and we're really excited to have been able to work with the City of Bonita Springs and bring some more.
Great, thank you very much. Amy, do you have anything you'd like to share?
No, I just want to again I've thanked Matt a few times, but he's really been a leader in this, and we're so appreciative of his efforts, and we knew it was going to work because you were in charge.
Thank you. Councilman Purdon?
He did do a great job on this, and then, you know, I did the bioreactor tour, and I had numerous elected officials from all over Southwest Florida that came, and he did a presentation that was so great. When they were out actually touring and heading to their cars, I had guys from both Collier and Lee County talking about the scalability of this and potential places where they could use it, which was the whole reason for the tour. So, I mean, and he's dealt with them afterwards on email, been very great. So I just, hats off to you. Good job, Matt. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilwoman Carr?
Just terrific.
Councilman Corey?
Very good job, Matt. Thanks very much. We all should remember that the Imperial River and Spring Creek have been impaired for more than 10 years, and the bioreactor is one of the first things that the city has done over the last 10 years to try to correct the solution I congratulate you on your efforts and look for more good work. We in Bonita Bay especially are interested in installing bioreactors in various places among our lakes, and we hope to contribute to the reduction in nitrogen in Bonita Springs.
Great, thank you. Councilman Gibson?
Yep, it's a good job. Congratulations. Thanks,
Great.
Matt.
Councilman Forbes?
Yeah, best thing I can do is say Greg Rawl, and everybody should know who he is. He's a nationally, internationally known geologist, hydrologist, and he came in and addressed City Council and said this would be the gold standard for the way the state of Florida cleans up its water, and eventually the gold standard for all the Gulf states and some of the East Coast states. So well done, Matt.
No, absolutely. And Matt, there again, you gave us the confidence to go forward. We went forward. We straightened out the answers that we didn't have, and we are now being funded, and there will be a match for round 2. So onward we shall go, and onward and upward. So thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, item B is a proclamation in celebration of Hispanic Heritage Month. If members of the community would like to come forward, I have a lot of proclamations here, but I'd like to read this, if I could. This is a proclamation for National Hispanic Heritage Month. Whereas the month of September brings the anniversary of independence for 7 Latin American countries: Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, Mexico, and Chile, whereas the month of September 15th through October 15th has been declared Hispanic Heritage Month to celebrate the rich cultural heritage of Hispanic and Latino Americans, which have a profound and positive influence to America's future. Even my big mouth can't be heard? Wow, okay. Okay, no, that's great. Now therefore I, Peter Simmons, Mayor of the City of Bonita Springs, Florida, do hereby proclaim September 15th, 2020 and October 15th, 2020 as Hispanic Heritage Month, and call upon the citizens of Bonita Springs to observe this month with appropriate ceremonies, activities, and educational programs. Signed, Mayor Peter Simmons, October 7th, 2020. So thank you very much. Are you here to receive this? Yes. Okay, would you like to say it? Sure. Whatever's over there, whatever's better, sure.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the city, and friends. I received this proclamation with a big honor from the community of Bonita Springs, the Hispanic community. We work together with the city and looking for better opportunities for our families and our students also is the future. And this is a big recognition with the activities and the community works together. Thank you, Mayor, for all the offers and the work you do. Give us opportunity to open the outreach community where it's a place where we can bring our thoughts and ideas and bring all of those feelings we have, and sometimes we have some necessities, and this is a place where we can come as part of our family, our city, and I received this, and it's very nice. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're now gonna, you guys have been very patient. Please come forward, members of the Bonita Springs Varsity football team. Yeah. Do you have another proclamation? Or is this it? Is this everything? Okay, great. That's awesome.
Good job, guys. Good job, guys. Good job, guys.
Oh,
Very
these
good
don't
job.
look like football players to me. I like the cheerleaders.
Very good job.
Hi, how are you?
Hi.
Thank you.
Good to
There
see
he
you.
is. Nice to see you.
Hi.
Let's go. Hey, how are you? Good. Great.
How are you? Well, this is, Anybody that knows me knows how big football is in our family, and our son is a senior at Bishop Verot, and he's been playing since second grade. And I just could not be prouder than to stand here with all of you here this evening, as this is the first year that Bonita Springs High School has a freshman, a sophomore, a junior, and a senior class. So while they've been playing varsity football for a few years, they've been playing without the benefit of seniors and juniors. So hallelujah, and God bless each and every one of you. So on behalf of the city of Bonita Springs, this is a certificate of achievement proudly presented to the Bonita Springs High School varsity football players, cheerleaders, and coaches for the first varsity victory, October 1st, 2020, Bonita Springs Bull Sharks 20, Cape Coral Seahawks 13. And this is signed Mayor Peter Simmons, October 7th, 2020. So if I could give you that. Thank you very much. Yeah, you're very welcome. And then for each one of you players and the captains and the cheerleaders and the coaches and the principal, now these letters are behind us here, so I'll give them all to you. But for each one of you, there's a letter here that reads, and I'll pick on Autumn Holloway, who's the cheer coach, right? Because that's a letter that I grabbed, but Dear Autumn, on behalf of the city of Bonita Springs, Florida, I would like to congratulate you for your historic first varsity football team win on Thursday, October 1st, 2020, by the score of 20-13 over the Cape Coral Seahawks. As a coach, you made it happen. All of your hard work and discipline were rewarded, making your high school and the community of Bonita Springs very proud. Once again, congratulations. Go Bonita Springs Bull Sharks. Sincerely yours, Peter Simmons, Mayor, City of Bonita Springs. And then I signed it, my name, good thing, right? Congratulations, and then I gave you a hashtag, Bonita Springs. So thank you very much. There's a letter for each and every one of you behind us, and we'd love, if you'd like to say a few words, we'd love to hear your thoughts.
Thank you, Mayor, for having us. Coach Rich Dombrowski, I'm the head football coach at Bonita Springs High School. It's been a long couple years when we started off in the portables and we had to deal with Hurricane Irma, and then playing varsity football without a senior class, to finally getting our first victory last Thursday night was just fitting, because the kids work so hard. We push them as coaches. You know, they're student athletes. They've got to deal with a lot of things. In fact, we're going to leave in a couple minutes. We've got practice in 25 minutes. We practice one night a week just to give them a little break from the heat. And I couldn't be prouder of the boys and everything that they've put forward. And to get that first victory is just very fitting. Thank you very much for having us.
No, absolutely. And I know how much hard work goes into being a captain. Would the captains like to say a few words? Or is Coach saying it's time to go to practice?
He's going to want me to speak a little too quick.
Keep talking.
Well, over the courses of these 4 years being part of the football team, we've all grown a huge bond between each other, one and brotherhood, making sure we play as a team, as a family, and making sure we give it all on the field, working for each person, making sure we do our job for our school, and making our city proud.
Thank you very much. If I wouldn't mind, the principal down here, who I feel like I've been involved since day one with you, but.
Well, I just want to say thank you to the city for this recognition and for the support since day one. These ladies and gentlemen that are up here, coaches, staff, students, it's been an awesome 4 years. It's a lot of work. Something I put in the weekly newsletter is about the resiliency that these young men and ladies have learned. It's not easy to be in the new school, and it's really not easy playing football with no juniors and seniors. But they keep coming back. They keep trying. They won their first game, but more than that, they've learned a lot of life lessons on how to be resilient. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you. I would just like to say one thing. Because of COVID-19, and Coach, you'll get I'm sure you're well aware of this, because of the format of the playoffs this year, not only will Bonita Springs be playing their first ever playoff game, you get to host it at home. So that's it. I don't know, did you, yeah, that came out very recently, so I sent that. And if all goes well, and you guys win, and Bishop Verot wins, I think we can line up and get it settled once and for all. That would be fun. Congratulations, everybody, congratulations. And I think we're going to do a quick picture.
Yeah, tickets, send those tickets.
All right, count of three. 1, 2, 3. Gonna take a couple. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
She'll give you another one.
Thank you.
Keep winning, okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Ladies? Ladies?
Thank you. Make sure.
Ladies, I just want you to tell, I was a cheerleader. So start out being a cheerleader, you could end up being a council person. Good luck.
See you at playoffs.
That's awesome.
That is the best part of this job, getting to do that. So thank you very much, Principal Estes. Thank you so much. Make Bonita Springs very proud. Okay, we are now going to move on to mayor and council member items. Item A, Matt, you want to tee this up? Or Matt's not here?
Matt went off to get autographs, I believe.
Okay.
I believe this was, the green sheet was
So,
presented
yeah, I
by-
can read it, Jerry. I don't care either
Yeah,
way.
but it was Councilman Corey.
Okay,
Corey
this
Green
is item A. Councilman?
Yes, thank you very much. 3 weeks ago tonight, at the end of the council meeting, a very unfortunate thing occurred, which really doesn't have anything to do with city business. But the mayor decided to blast Bonita Bay, who has for the last 35 years been a key component of this community, whose residents have paid a lot of taxes into the community, who have supported a lot of initiatives in this community, but he's decided to blast Bonita Bay for blue-green algae, even calling Bonita Bay a peril to the public health. Now, what we have here is, and the reason this is not city business, is there's been no violation alleged of any city ordinance or no notification of any violation provided to Bonita Bay. The state agencies that he has called in, including the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, the Florida Department of Agriculture, and the State Health Department, have issued no citations. I was reluctant to bring up this green sheet because there's a lot of valuable city business that needs to be discussed, but at the same time, it's only just and fair that Bonita Bay have a chance to outline for the council how we manage our lakes, to point out some of the errors in the mayor's allegations. We have suffered from the slings and arrows of various TV news coverage. We have suffered from the slings and arrows of his various community emails. Property values have been disturbed. Reputation has been tarnished. And even our Bonita Bay Club has had a lot of questions concerning how they manage the lakes. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to have a presentation tonight by the BBCA Board of Directors, Bonita Bay Community Association Board of Directors. It's going to be handled by Paul Gavin. And I've noticed that afterwards, the mayor has added an addendum where he wants to speak after Paul. And I understand that he may want to do that, but I would encourage the council to deny him that opportunity. Because again, this is not city business. And if he chooses to bring up new points, if he chooses to bring up a new expert to back up his allegations, then I will simply have another green sheet at the next meeting. And this will continue to be the Bonita Bay, Bonita Springs City Council meeting until he is no longer in charge of being the mayor. So I would hope that this puts an end to it. I am sick of it. I've been sick of it since June. And I will therefore ask Paul Gavin of Bonita Bay Community Association, Lakes and Wetlands Committee, also Bonita Bay Club, Lakes and Wetlands Committee, to make a presentation for the benefit of all council and for the benefit of all the Bonita Bay people that are listening in or watching on our community channel. Paul?
Point of order. If this isn't city business, as you just stated, then what are we doing?
We are playing fair because he blasted us for 10 and a half minutes.
Well, I'm just asking the question. If it's not city business, what are we doing here? You just said it wasn't. And here's the reason I asked that question, because I saw the email that went out that bashed him. That's fine. Look, you two don't like each other. You guys both are in Bonita Bay. Fine. There are significant things on this agenda, so I don't really feel like sitting here and watching a sword fighting contest between the two of you when there's actually things to do on this agenda. But with that being said, as far as the presentation goes, if it's anything along the lines of the email or what you started with, I'm sure that it's not. This isn't the venue for it. So
Well,
if
I'm
you want
sorry
to
you
talk
feel that way,
factual science
Jesse.
things, that's great.
But
But
if
this
you-
isn't. Look, it's not going to be a political debate. This isn't the venue for it. You two want to box later? Do it. You want to have a debate later? Fine. We have city business to do. You just
Now-
said it isn't city business, and we're going to sit here for 30 minutes and listen to this.
No, it's not 30 minutes. It's an opportunity to listen to it's a chance to educate the council, to answer any questions that council has on how Bonita Bay manages the lakes. This is not a sword fight.
This has nothing to do with the rest of us.
You're not concerned about the Imperial River and how we manage our lakes?
I'm definitely concerned about the Imperial River.
Well, then it is city business for you, right?
No, it's city business in this.
Jesse, are you making a motion, or what would you?
No, I'm just making a statement to whoever's delivering this. Let's keep it scientific. Let's keep it to the facts. Talk about what's going on with the
you
lakes,
don't
but
have
I
to
don't want to
worry
hear
about
direct
that, Jesse.
things to the mayor. I don't want to hear direct things to council people. I want to hear the facts. You want a chance to respond, that's fine. But at the same time, you said in your opening this wasn't a city thing. If it's not a city thing, there's plenty of stuff on this agenda. So I don't
agree,
know what
Jesse.
we're doing.
We're in agreement on that. So, and believe me, this will be scientific, and it will not be any politics involved. Paul?
Welcome.
Thank you for that interesting introduction. My name is Paul Gavin. I am a resident of Bonita Bay. All residents of Bonita Bay belong to the Community Association. The club is optional. I am a member of the Lakes and Wetlands Committee of both the Community Association and the club, and I am very knowledgeable about our lakes. I am authorized tonight to speak on behalf of both the Community Association and the club. I have exchanged many emails with Peter Simmons, and I have met with him, but I have failed to resolve the issues he raised at this city council on the record on September 16th. Why should Bonita Bay bother to respond? Because if you do not, there is an inference that the allegations are true, and they are not. Bonita Bay cares about its community and its lakes, and it wants to stop the information, so Bonita Bay reluctantly responds. About 5 weeks ago, an anonymous worker made allegations against the maintenance staff of the Community Association, claiming misuse of chemicals, dumping of chemicals, and that the chemicals caused a fish kill in one of the lakes of Bonita Bay. The Community Association has spent a lot of time and effort looking into these allegations and has concluded no misuse of chemicals, no dumping of chemicals, no fish kill in any lake in Bonita Bay, nor has any governmental agency found any wrongdoing. On my part, being on the Lakes and Wetlands Committee, after the mayor spoke in this city council, I wrote to him 2 days later and asked him to send me all of his supporting information about these allegations he made here on the record. The mayor sent 4 things. First, One page of paper. It had 6 lines, undated, unsigned. It was about what he should do in the future. The mayor says it was from a PhD. Item 2, photographs and a water sample regarding Lake 31. It doesn't support those allegations, but I'll get to that. The third item was 1-page handwritten list of chemicals. Undated, unsigned, just a list of chemicals. And the fourth item to support the claims he made on the record was the anonymous affidavit itself. When Mayor Simmons recited these wild allegations in the city council, he had no supporting information, no witnesses, no evidence, no finding of wrongdoing. Peter Simmons used the city council.
I'm going to ask you to keep this a little bit less direct to the mayor and political and stick to the points.
Point of order.
Wait a minute, point of order. Just a minute. We got one chairman.
He's been sitting here like.
You're not the
I
chairman.
just feel like,
You know,
I can run this
This
meeting,
isn't the
but
place
given
for it.
what's going on.
Yeah,
this
let
is
me,
the
let
place
me,
for
let me, let me weigh in just a little bit. Your rules of procedure, you made me bring the book today, and I hate when I have to bring the book. Your rules of procedure appoint me as parliamentarian to advise the chair. In a situation like this, when we have, where the chair might actively participate in the debate, the recommendation under Robert's rules would be to turn the gavel over to the vice chair. That way the vice chair, I apologize, Councilman Gibson, could handle the points of orders to maintain decorum. Your own adopted rules of procedure do request that speakers address the mayor or the chair. In this situation, you know, I think we're talking about allegations that were made, and so mentioning someone's name is probably appropriate, but under those rules, it's also we're supposed to avoid personal attacks, both between the board members, from the public to the board, and between the board members and the public. So I would just ask that that cooler heads prevail, complete the presentation, allow the council to ask questions afterwards. Just to remind everyone, this may be the court of public opinion, but it's not a court of law. So these are, in the end, factual allegations that have been made and have been turned over to the appropriate agencies. The city staff has looked at the issue. There are no city regulations on point, although we do care about these issues. There is no regulations for us to get involved in. And so those agencies will go through the process, and if there are issues that have to be addressed, then they need to be addressed. But there are a lot of things here that we should just get through the facts and have the council ask the questions they'd like to ask and you know, bring it down a notch. That's my
Well,
recommendation.
that's great. So Mike, if you need the gavel, you have it, but if not, you're in charge, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, continue.
Thank you. I'll be brief in this particular area. Peter Simmons used this city council to create a public record. After the city council meeting of September 16th, he began sending emails to many Bonita Bay residents asking if they were aware of a public record of allegations by an anonymous person. He repeated the wild allegations. He did not disclose he was the one who created the public record.
That's incorrect.
There is more I can say on this. I'll move on to the lake's issues. The purpose of a lake. There's a conceptual issue. Is the lake to be a pretty body of water and it doesn't matter what's in it, or is it to be a complex living ecosystem? Both the club and the community association have chosen a living ecosystem. Bonita Bay is very serious about our lakes and wetlands. Let's talk about caring for a lake. Many people who have swimming pools use an outside service to care for their pools. Think about how complicated it is to take care of a series of lakes, which is why Bonita Bay has always used an outside company specializing in lake maintenance. Solitude Lake Management, a national company. I have asked Bill Kurth the Director of Operations for Solitude to be here tonight. Using the right amount of chemicals at the right time on a complex lake where there's plants, animals, birds, and fish is something Bonita Bay leaves to an expert outside company. But part of the frustration in responding to allegations of chemicals being dumped into a lake by community association maintenance workers is that maintenance workers don't take care of the lakes. The club has 40 lakes. Bonita Bay's club has installed new state-of-the-art irrigation systems to reduce water use, electricity, and maintenance costs, and spent massive amounts to do that. What the club has also done is it has installed voluntarily aeration systems. An aeration system introduces oxygen into the bottom of a lake. Why? Well, if you can read the print on the left and right of the cartoon, what it does is it reduces the gunk on the bottom of a lake. It increases oxygen, it helps clear the water, and increases fish and aquatic life. On the right side is a picture of an aeration system that had just been installed, and it doesn't look like much because it's the oxygen being introduced into the water by a generator that's on the land. This has worked so well for the club that they have increased the use of aeration in the lakes. That worked well. All club lakes will be aerated within the next 12 months. I explained all of this to the mayor 2 days before his city council meeting on September 16th. At that city council meeting, the mayor raised an issue about algae on one of the lakes. Since the club has 40 lakes and the community association has 40 lakes, I reached out to Peter Simmons to see if we could determine, as to the lake issues, what did we agree on and what do we disagree on? Good news. As to the club's 40 lakes, the mayor said on October 1st, and I'll quote, "We can absolutely agree that the country club is doing a great job." And we appreciate that. So I'll move on to the 40 lakes owned and operated by the community association, often surrounded by homes, sometimes not. They operate under a master plan. In 2019, there was a study done, and plus some prior studies. It resulted in a master plan for the lakes and wetlands being unanimously adopted by the board of directors of the community association a few months ago. Give you some of the highlights. In 2020, this year, we are to hire a limnologist, a specialist in inland waterways. We have identified that person, Dr. Serge Thomas. You'll see his picture. He has been out to this lake in dispute. The plan calls for the testing of the water quality in specific lakes. Done. Test the reclaimed water coming into Bonita Bay to be used for irrigation purposes. Done. In mid to late 2020 to 21, hire a full-time biologist, determine which lakes need dredging, set up a schedule to aerate lakes, and stock the lakes with appropriate species of fish. Part of the long-term plan is the biologist becomes the director of an ecology center on site in Bonita Bay, which will work with the Macias Wildlife Society and the Nature Club both are Bonita Bay-based, to help educate the school children here in Bonita Springs about life in the lakes and wetlands. If you look at the picture, on the bottom corner, there is an arrow. I reached out to the mayor about what's the dispute. Well, of the 40 lakes of the community association, he said 39 lakes are doing fine. He has an issue with one. I asked to identify that issue. The issue is down where the corner is. Now, if you see a North Island, a Middle Island, and a South Island, those islands are critical habitats for birds. The Florida Audubon Society comes out to Bonita Bay yearly to conduct a bird count on Lake 31. This is the very lake we're talking about. In April of 2019, there were 13 species and 622 nests. These are some of the birds that are there, some of which have critical habitat on this lake. The area we have in disagreement on Lake 31 is 1/10 of 1% of one lake out of 40 that belong to the community association. Really, that's the dispute. Peter Simmons doesn't want to talk about birds, he wants to talk about algae. Let's talk about algae. This is a picture taken by Peter Simmons on July 27th. A few days ago, I emailed him, asked if he'd send me his pictures of the algae so I could use them. I appreciate his cooperation, so I'm going to show his pictures. Now, we have to first talk about what is algae. The CDC, the National Center for Environmental Health, states that the blue-green algae are microscopic organisms found naturally in all types of water. These single-celled organisms live in fresh, brackish, and marine water. These organisms use sunlight to make their own food. In warm, nutrient-rich, high in phosphorus and nitrogen environments, cyanobacteria can multiply quickly, creating blooms that spread across the water's surface, and the blooms might become visible. What happens when there is a bloom is Bonita Bay notifies Solitude Lake Management.
Point of order, please.
No discussion on
Point
the
of
dais
order,
while doing the
please.
presentation, please.
Point of order, please.
Yes.
People are speaking and I can't hear what he's saying. I'm sorry.
Please, no discussion while the presentation's going on. About how much longer do you think the presentation's going to be?
4 or 5 minutes.
Okay. Try to keep it as tight as possible.
Yes, sir.
Because we normally only do about 10 minutes on presentations.
I appreciate your indulgence. If you look at the picture here, it's next to a wall. That's important because algae blooms start in slower, non-moving water. It only extends for 6 or 8 feet here, and that's because beyond that, the water will be moving. These are additional pictures taken by the mayor. So the Florida Department of Environmental Protection has been invited out by someone multiple times. Okay? What were their findings? We put them in red. See where it says, let's see if I can use this. Microtoxins, not detected. Other toxins, not detected. There is no health and safety issue here. There are no toxins that have been detected. This is a picture of Dr. Serge Thomas of Florida Gulf Coast University. He's our expert. He was out to that lake on August 29th. It's not a good a lake for aeration for technical reasons. This is how water leaves Lake 31, and it goes into the Imperial River. This is a complex map, the whole purpose of which is to say most of the lakes in Bonita Bay are connected only in small groups, and they drain into marshland or preserve area, so the water leaving will percolate down back into the aquifer. Now, I was trying to explain to Peter Simmons that the problem in Bonita Bay isn't what is being done in Bonita Bay, it is the water quality coming into Bonita Bay. And the easiest way to do that is to compare the lakes. So this is that same Lake 31 in September. And what you need to understand is the key ingredients are phosphorus and nitrates. This city prohibits the use of fertilizers during the wet months. Great idea. Thank you very much. You stop phosphorus and nitrates from entering the lake streams and rivers. Bonita Bay uses, like a number of communities does, reclaimed water. It comes to Bonita Bay in separate pipes. It is put in a separate holding pond owned by an outside company. That reclaimed water then becomes the water for irrigation. The problem is that the city of Bonita Springs in section 4425 sub 4 exempts reclaimed water from any restriction on phosphorus and nitrates to be used in the summer. So what do? If you want to find out if Bonita Bay has a problem, it's really very simple. You test the water leaving the lake, and you test the reclaimed water when it first arrives in a separate holding pond. We did that. Here are the results. The water coming into Bonita Bay, reclaimed water from the city, from the Bonita Springs utility, is 11.9 times higher in phosphorus, 4.5 times higher in nitrates. What happens to it when it's put in irrigation? Some of it is absorbed by the plants and the other vegetation, but some of it in the summer comes into our lakes.
Just want to give you a 1-minute warning.
That's all I have. Thank you. Here's our request. These are pictures of the holding pond for the water arriving in Bonita Bay. Bonita Bay doesn't own this pond. There was a fish kill in it. We're simply here to say this. We reach out to this innovative city. Talk with Bonita Springs Utility. Get them to clean the reclaimed water, lower the phosphates, lower the nitrates, and we won't have this on the holding pond on Bonita Bay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Chris, did you have some follow-up?
No, I think we've said it, what we needed to say, and I would hope this puts it into it.
Great, thank you very much for the presentation. Glad you shared the pictures, and I'm glad that we were able to have a meeting with Bonita Springs Utilities last week. We had it Thursday of last week. Paul was there, I was there, and John Jenkins was there. So thank you for that, and I believe you're going to be following up with RCS as well. Is that correct?
That's correct. There were also 2 other Lake Committee's members there. We appreciated the dialogue. It is the start of the discussion with Bonita Springs Utility to bring reclaimed water in with lower phosphates and nitrates so they're not used during the wet summer months. And Mr. Mayor, I appreciate your cooperation and your ongoing communication with me.
Likewise,
you.
absolutely. And I just want to compliment you and your team, because in June, we've come a million miles since June. Remember in June, we were told there was no problem, there was no need for a follow-up meeting? And we've come a long way since June. You and I have had several meetings. We've had a meeting with Bonita Springs Utilities, and I believe we'll also have a meeting with RCS. So that's come a long way since the problem's been solved. There's no need for further meetings. So I thank you for that and your diligence.
The only gentle comment I would make about that is that the
And
community...
that came from the Bonita Bay Community Association, as you know.
The Community Association sent out an email to all members, and I have it with me, and it said that there was a algae issue. It was taken care of by Solitude Lake Management, and if it reappears, we will take steps to address it. Algae blooms are common in the summer in all waters, including, as was said during the meeting at Bonita Springs Utilities, with their own ponds.
Right. No,
So,
that's
thank you very
good.
much. We'll continue talking. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much. And I did submit a few slides that I would like to have shown, please. Do we
Is there
have
any-
those queued
Is there
up?
any question or my?
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm not, actually, Mike, I'm sorry.
I'd like,
Are
I'd
there
like
any
to make some comments. I appreciate the presentation. In fact, I learned a lot. My community is struggling with, we're not really struggling, but there's an interest in exploring some ecological processes within our own ponds. We use a lot of the methods that you say you're using, and I would like to put you in touch with Pelican Landing Eco Club so that we're going to have a water presentation soon. But I think some of the things that you're doing are very good. And it is a relief to know that there really is not, there was not a problem and is not a problem. And I'm interested to hear the follow-up with Bonita Springs Utilities.
Thank you. I can guarantee you we'll be in touch with Pelican Landing.
Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so this is the analysis that was done by Florida Gulf Coast University from the first water sample that was taken, and you can see, even though I was told there was no problem, there was 2 prominent cyanobacteria, blue-green algae in the sample. One is microcystis, the clumps of spheres, best shown in the bottom photo, possibly 2 forms, and the other is Rhaphodiphyus, your guess is as good as mine, the filaments in the top photo. Both can produce toxins, but do not do so all the time. If they were producing toxins, then they would be other concerns besides water discoloration and potential odor. I saved material for further testing. If that is something you would like to pursue, we can discuss later. So then slide 2 is one that Paul shared. This was what started the conversation in June and continues to this day, as you may have gathered. We're still talking about it. This third slide there would be samples of rocks that were taken just north of Wood Lake a few months ago. If you can see, that's not turquoise, that's not jewelry, those are rocks from Bonita Bay. The next slide, there again, the color is off a bit, but you can see the colors of the rocks just north of Wood Lake in Bonita Bay. The next slide is the affidavit that was given that we were told was unsigned and undated. Well, I would disagree slightly. There's a date on there, but the signature is from under the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. It's the Division of Agriculture and Consumer Services. This was the statement given by a worker from Bonita Bay to that department that did not want to sign their name for fear of retaliation from being fired. Now, I did read that at the last meeting. It is difficult to read because of the penmanship, but this is where the allegations of the chemicals being improperly used and improperly mixed and improperly dumped came from. I didn't dream that up, I can assure you of that. So that's what that contains. The next slide, please. And this is, Paul shared this slide as well. This is holding pond B, where the water comes in from Bonita Springs Utilities. Actually, I think it's RCS. So the next slide, please. This was the response that I got. You can see this was a third request in July. Mr. Mayor, a follow-up meeting, and this was a third request to follow up after Solitude had treated the lake. And similar pictures, very similar to the ones you see, came. A follow-up meeting or conference call is not needed. As you know, a follow-up meeting or conference call is not required. As you know, the BBCA, Bonita Bay Community Association, had the blooms you identified treated by Solitude, and those lakes are now algae-free. Incorrect. We are investigating other...
Mr. Mayor, excuse me, that was correct at the time that I wrote that, and if you look at it, it also says we are investigating other...
Point of order.
methods that should the problem be served.
What about the first two times you ignored
Point
me?
of
Was there
order.
algae that day?
We're not, I'm sorry,
Okay.
no
Thank
discussion
you.
back and forth.
Appreciate
Point of
your
order.
comment.
Point of
So
view.
maybe the one day that you respond, that may have been accurate. Fair enough. Okay,
Now,
next slide, please.
Excuse me.
No discussion between the dais and
Thank you.
public.
These were the articles that came. This one is from Fox 4 News. There were statements given by FGCU, Dr. Barry Rosen, so those are certainly a matter of public record now, so you can certainly read those. And then the next slide is, and I'm sorry, this one I believe is from NBC. There again, this is public record, so you can read the article. And then the last one, I believe, is from Wink News. And if I have those last two mixed up, but Fox, NBC, and CBS Wink News were there to cover it. And I believe that's the last slide. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and then just the other bit of information that I would share is, and I'm not sure what's taken so long, but be that as it may, in Tallahassee, the case numbers, so the worker that alleged about the chemicals, the FDACs, I believe is the acronym under Florida Department of Environmental Protection, came in and took water and soil samples. They came in on that date that affidavit was signed. The case numbers for those samples, and it's public record so anybody can see it, but if you want to follow up like I've been doing, the case number is 120-209-5032, and the samples, there are all of those same numbers, 120-209-5032, and at the end would be 0101, 0102 for sample 2, 0103, 0104, and 0105. So the samples are still in Tallahassee. It has been several weeks now, so at some point we will have those results. So thank you for the presentation. I'll say it one last time. We've come a million miles since June, when we were told in our newsletter there wasn't a problem, and I was told the problem had been solved and there was no need for further meetings. So thank you, everybody. There's a lot of passion, there's a lot of emotion, but there's a lot of reality going on, and I just sincerely appreciate it. Chris, thanks for bringing it up. Thanks. Everybody has kind of, if you will, said what they need to say for now. We're going to, Paul, you're great to work with. You're absolutely great to work with, and I thank you for stepping forward to solve this problem that in June was not a problem. So thank you very much. Absolutely, please.
Holy shit. How long are we going to let this?
And Mike, you're still running this. I apologize. So one last statement.
Thank you. It's a circular argument to call in the press, tell the press whatever you think the facts are that are absolutely unsupported, and then come in here and put the copies of the press on the board as if it is fact. Algae blooms are common all throughout Florida. That's the fact. The fact is Florida Department of Environmental Protection found no toxins. Those are the facts. When there was a fish kill in one lake, it was owned by Resource Conservation Systems. They transport the Bonita Springs utility water to Bonita Bay. They don't do anything with it. And in our meeting with Bonita Springs Utility, which we very much appreciate, John Jenkins said, if you really want to know the quality of the water coming from Bonita Springs Utility, test it in that holding pond. We did, and it's 12 times higher in phosphorus and 4.5 times higher in nitrates than the water leaving Bonita Bay. So we reach out, engage in discussions with Bonita Springs Utility. That's the one to chat about. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. I look forward to our
emails with
continued
you.
work. You're great to work with. You're fantastic to work with, and you've got your information together, and so do I. So thank you for the discussion.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Mike,
Right, I
you
turn
want
the
to
meeting back over.
relinquish the gavel?
Absolutely.
Council, any other comments or questions? Okay, let's go to item B, which is the discussion
Time out. No, time out. I do have a comment.
No, I'm sorry. We have is the gentleman still with us on the line?
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry. There's one other person here that would like to speak.
What is this about?
And we have had, and I don't know, we've had a lot of public comments come in, but this is one last comment on this item. Are we ready to,
Yes.
okay?
You can introduce him, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Dan, are you with us? Dan, can you hear us? Possibly not. Dan may have heard all he needed to hear.
He's muted right now.
Oh, Dan, you might be on mute.
He's unmuted now.
Okay, how about now?
Well, welcome, Dan. If you could give us a quick thumbnail of your background, and thank you for being with us tonight.
Sure. My name is Dan Levy. I'm the Vice President of the AECOM organization, and we've been focused, me in particular, on solving the harmful algal bloom problem, not just in Florida, but nationally. So I applaud the dialogue that's going there, and I'm glad to hear that everybody is taking this serious. We had, as everybody knows, several years ago, one of the worst crises that we've seen here in our state. We were called in by the state and the governor's office to use a new and innovative technology that we're now working very closely with the Army Corps of Engineers on developing. So I wanted to just say a couple of points about how toxic some of the algae can be. Not all of it, and that is correct. There is algae here, but we are seeing, because of climate change, that these harmful algal blooms are lasting longer and are becoming more toxic. So we do need to keep a very close eye on what type of algae is present. We need to be diligent on how we sample. And if we do find microcystin, we need to take it serious. So I wanted to just share that, and I'll be free to address any comments or questions on what we're doing here in the state. We have 2 big research projects going on with the water management districts, where we're going to be taking algae out of the water, transforming at biomass. And I think one of the biggest differences that we're doing in this space now is looking for a permanent solution. By physically taking nitrogen and phosphorus out, we can allow our ecosystems to come back to its more natural state. So just wanted to share that information, and there'll be a lot more coming out with our documents as we move forward.
No, thank you very much. Council, are there questions or comments?
I believe there's a woman in the audience that wanted to say something.
Mike, I guess you're still, I apologize.
On this, or do you want to wait for the next public comment portion?
I'd like to speak on this, if I may.
Okay. All right.
How long are we, if we even do this, this has gone on for an hour and has nothing to do with the city. Again, I appreciate that you guys are both very concerned about it and you're both very upset with each other about it, but this is not anything to do. We have serious stuff to get to, and I'm sick of this. It shouldn't have even been a green sheet, period.
All right.
Excuse me.
So, go ahead, Amy.
I was going to speak on this topic that you just brought up, along with everything else. Last meeting, I had asked that the council, this is relevant what I'm saying, have a workshop or a retreat so that we could discuss proper introductions of things into the council meeting. And this council decided not to have it, all right? Fine. But I think this whole topic is, I agree with you, is totally inappropriate. And we should have interceded when the mayor brought it up in the first place. I do believe that this presentation we have today was appropriate to counteract the statements that were made from this dais, which I think was inappropriate, because it's not the council's business. I have an interest in what was presented today, not because of what happened here, but because of my own interest in my own community. So I don't think it was useless. This final comment, I don't understand how that was appropriate, because that was a commercial person that was commenting. So we need to get the council needs to get our business in order. We are not handling what comes before us in a proper way, so we definitely need to meet as a body and go over these rules so we respect each other. This is totally unfortunate, but I feel that we had to have sort of equal time here, so I disagree with that we should have stopped this. It's appropriate, but it's got to stop now. All right? If anything comes before the council, I want it to be discussed preliminarily with all of us. We're all equal. We each have one vote, and that's it. Not one vote is better than another. Not one voice is stronger than another.
Absolutely.
So this is, I'm upset about this now, and I'm sure you're upset too.
Yeah.
But let's put this to bed and go forward with the rest of the business for today's meeting, because it's important.
Okay, seeing as this was a presentation, not going to allow public comment during this, but it does appear that we are missing a public comment on the agenda. There's normally a middle one, usually before the city attorney items. But I'd suggest that maybe after we finish the mayor and council member items, we have that public comment. And it's normally on anything that pertains to the city, so it can be said then. So if nobody else up here on the dais has anything to say about this, let's put it to bed and move on to B.
Second.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, we're going to move on. Thank you, Mike, very much. Thanks, everybody. Item B is a discussion regarding the zoning board, and this is Councilwoman Carumba and Chris Corey, Green Sheet 20-10-312. Amy? Or Chris, either way?
I really would like Derek to help us with this here, because I think independently, I understand both Councilman Curry and I had expressed some concerns about the operation of the zoning board, in addition to the fact that we lost 4 members all at the same time. And he has some ideas about, I think, some council people, I think Laura expressed it last time, had some concern about how they were operating, and when I viewed some of the operations of that board, I had some issues with what was gone. And I'd just like to call on Derek to suggest some assistance that may be given, especially since we're going to vote 4 new people onto the board. So I'm just going to turn it over to him. And just one more comment. I think the council needs some education in addition to the zoning board in regard to zoning and the LPA. So.
Yes, as the council's aware, in the past, I've recommended that we move forward and get both the local planning agency and the zoning board some training on the big picture planning issues, and then maybe some training on quasi-judicial procedures. I have been looking for trainers who are willing to do that during the time of COVID. I do recommend that, and I would have recommended that we would hold one big training session, including the city council, so that everyone could have their opportunity to hear from one another. moving forward, since we've had 4 resignations from the zoning board and having multiple conversations with several council members, I do think it is appropriate if we are going to revisit the role of the zoning board and their scope, that no better time to start that process would be now. Even with the outgoing zoning board, there had been some discussions about revisiting some of their concerns. Some of their concerns had been that they felt that as a recommending body, that they had no real authority and could be easily bypassed by applicants who didn't feel that the recommendation carried much weight. At the same time, we've had complaints and issues raised by members of this council about the zoning board going off topic or covering aspects or rules that are most appropriate for the local planning agency, such as the comprehensive plan. And so we've had some recent hearings, in fact, where the conversation has been almost entirely about the comprehensive plan. And in these situations, it's difficult because we have, you set the comprehensive plan as your overriding policy document. The local planning agency reviews projects, changes to the comprehensive plan, makes recommendations on them. And then the zoning board, who's supposed to be acting in a quasi-judicial capacity, not reviewing the comp plan so much, but is reviewing the implementing land development regulations of that comp plan, is getting tied up into the comp plan. And then part of that is due to the fact that my belief is that our actual zoning code procedures in the codes are unclear. They fit a lot of circumstances with respect to variances and other issues pretty well, but they don't give a lot of guidance as to rezonings. So one of the recommendations that I would like you to chew on, and I will be providing you some backup and training materials for your next zoning hearings, which are going to be final adoption hearings, and see how you feel about those. And if those work, then we'll implement those to other programs, would be to consider removing the rezoning review from the zoning board and moving that to the local planning agency, which is more common, more common in planning reviews, because they are the provider, the initial developer of the comp plan, and so they're in a perfect position to review a zoning change with its consistency with the comprehensive plan. Plus, our local planning agency isn't doing a lot these days, and so this would be a good task to let them dig in as well. Many of the changes that the zoning board had implemented with respect to rezonings had to do with application criteria and detail of plans, all of which staff has been working to develop. And so I think those plans can carry over into the work of the local planning agency. At the same time, I think that in particular, Chairman Kurlander, before he resigned, had raised with me multiple times that there should be some final authority for the zoning board. And I think that that is probably a good policy recommendation, that once that board has had some revised procedures and some revised criteria for considering applications, that they be given final authority on special exceptions and variances, possibly with an appeal right to the city council for aggrieved parties, and then also maybe appeals of the planning staff, so administrative appeals. So giving them some final authority, possibly with an appeal procedure to the city council, but taking the rezonings and giving those to the local planning agency for recommendation, and then moving them to final hearing for the city council. That would be my recommendation. That's far more consistent with the majority of layperson boards in Florida. The other alternative is to look at revising the procedure entirely and look at like a hearing examiner, like Cape Coral has done, the county, Collier County, other communities as well. At this point, I think you've got a lot of volunteerism in the city of Bonita Springs. I don't think that there's any reason to move to a hearing examiner. The city council takes a lot of interest in rezoning applications, and when you go to a hearing examiner, you're sort of turning everything over to them at that point and only looking at a very narrow issue when it gets to city council. So those are my recommendations as things you might want to consider. I wanted to kind of display them verbally, and if it's something you want me to actually sketch out and show you what those revised procedures would be, I'd be willing to do that.
I would greatly appreciate that, Derek. I think that there was a lot of confusion on the part of the zoning board as to what their role and responsibility was. It may not have always fit the verbiage of what their scope was, but at the same time, I think they did a lot of good things in terms of creating a better product in terms of what the developers were doing as it benefits the public. I know that we're going to have before us names to consider for the zoning board. I wish, if it's possible, that we have this discussion about what the zoning board's role is, what their authority is, and so forth, before we move ahead to adopt or to vote on additional zoning board members.
I would also like to table that for another time.
I think we need, you know, if this was a commercial enterprise, you would finalize the job description before you would hire anybody. And I think this is just an important thing. I don't want to have anybody join the zoning board and then a year from now say, why did I do that? I don't understand what I'm doing, or I feel like it's a waste of time, and then we get another wave of resignation. So I think we need to fix it. I don't have I'm not wedded to any solution on the fix, but I think we need to go through it. And I do remember in a conversation with you that it seems like our approach is, don't want to use the word unique, but it's not the common kind of approach that you've seen other cities use. And maybe we ought to take a look and see if, maybe we are outside the norm in the way that it's structured.
The only problem I have with that, do we have a quorum?
We do not have a quorum at
So
this
I don't
time.
think we can delay it.
Nobody's project will be put off.
You would lack the benefit of a recommendation from the zoning board.
Correct.
And I don't
We need a
know,
quorum.
but I would guess that anybody's name, any of these 5 members that are on here would oppose to being, as we move forward here, and the members that are currently on the board that did not resign, I might add, that are sticking it out and sticking with us, thank you for that, aren't quitting, but have full faith and confidence in the city of Bonita Springs, that when we appoint 4 members tonight and have a full capacity of a board for the next meeting on the 20th, if their job description needs to change, I don't think anybody's going to have a problem. I'll just go out on a limb and say that.
But I would think that before we have a functioning zoning board, that we want to make sure we agree as a council on what it is that we want them to do, and be able to explain to them what their role and responsibilities are. I mean, the zoning board, as I understand it, has only met 3 times this year. Unfortunately, I couldn't find any of the minutes of the 2020 meetings. And I was asking for the September 15th minutes, and evidently the problem was they were Zoom calls and whatever, and the minutes were difficult to take. But I think we got our own internal processes with respect to recording. The September 15th meeting, for example, was 7.5 hours long as far as the video. I at least would like to see a set of minutes so I can start to guess where to start looking at in the video for what actually took place. So I think we got some stuff to do. I think zoning's got some stuff to do, so however the council wants to proceed.
Mr. Mayor.
And we are going to have a new mayor, but you've got one more session to go, right? And
The first meeting in November, and then we'll have a new mayor and new council.
Well, Derek,
I'd like to,
practical point, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No,
Just from a practical point of view, could we, I don't necessarily not want to vote on the people, but could we sort of hold up their functioning while we clarify this?
My recommendation would be, I don't know that we have anything that's, hot to trot permitting wise when we're heading into the holiday season, which always slows things down a bit more. My recommendation is if you do decide to impanel a full board tonight, that we probably would hold off on the next month's meeting, or at least this month's meeting, until community development staff and myself can at least have one sit down with them, go through the rules and procedures, go through the basics with them, so that they understand their current role, and see if actually we can have a little bit of a dialogue about what they think about the rules. I mean, right now, if you were to read the finding requirements for any of our approvals, you're hopping all over our code. It should be one set of rules in one place, and that's it. It should be easy to read, easy to follow, and it's not. And I think that complicates the job for them. I think if you read our staff reports, it complicates the job for our staff. And when I speak about what other communities do is, generally in Florida, when the first enabling acts for local planning and zoning went into effect, mainly in the 1960s, there were uniform rules passed by the legislature across the board. Everybody had the same rules. Most of your case law that will be judged by is based on those rules and those boards. They have evolved over time. Ours is just sort of different. And if we're going to go back to basics, I'd say going back to the original basics, when you have a variance, which most of the variances you've dealt with have been due to hardship, focusing on those rules and expanding the detail about the finding on those will make it easier for the boards to do their job.
Well, I'd like to recommend that we go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, can I speak?
Please.
Thank you. I think we need to vote on members today, to not have a zoning board, to not even be able to have a quorum on a zoning board is just, it's crazy to me. It's unfortunate that we lost the people we lost, and I'm not even talking with the beginning. I mean, I'm going all the way back to Dawn. That shouldn't have went down the way that went down, but it did, and we are where we are, and now we have people who have great applications, that have great resumes, that are qualified, and I think we can go through the process procedurally with them while we decide what it is that we think they are. I mean, from what you said, Derek, I was okay with the majority of it. However, I don't think the final vote on anything needs to come from them. I think that needs to come from us, because we were elected. But as far as the other components of what you said, I'm all in for that. But I mean, I think it's our job to make sure we have a functioning zoning board as a city. I think it would be dereliction of duty to not do that. We
need the rules and regulations.
What do you mean rules and regulations? The same ones that were on when the people quit. Nothing changed. Nothing changed. So if it got disbanded or they all quit because some catastrophic change happened and we couldn't do it, then that's fine. But just sit here and say, well, I don't know, maybe we should just wait. No.
Well, I think what I heard Derek say, thank you, Jesse, but what I think I heard you say, Derek, is we could vote on the 4 new members tonight. The November 20th meeting, the next zone, which is the next scheduled zoning, you say looks light, so we could.
We could train something, anything in between them. I'm looking at staff, which I want to point out that I didn't share any of my ideas with staff.
Yeah, no.
So they're all over there. I can hear them whispering their plans. I feel it's best to ambush you.
We could seat them tonight and then have the new members and the current members get together, right? To go over this discussion.
Come about?
It's in the packet.
They put their names forward at City Hall that they were interested in.
I think Jackie can give you an idea what the actual schedule
Mr. Mayor.
We always do.
Yes, Fred, I'm sorry.
Well, I'm in agreement with doing the voting tonight. I'm in agreement that things need to change. One idea I'd throw out is maybe the zoning board should be the final say-so on something that nobody looks at but community development. We got lots of land already pre-zoned to where all you have to do is come in and get a development plan, to go in construction, approved by community development. I think that, and a lot of surprises have happened in the community because of that situation. So why not let the zoning board be the final say-so on those plans that are submitted that have to have a development order before it's sacrosanct? Right now, it goes through community development. Just an idea.
I get it.
But
All
I
right,
do- I do agree with, we want to do this tonight.
I agree with voting today, but I would like to have a presentation from Derek and our staff, and I don't think we necessarily have to have it tonight, because frankly, I can't listen anymore, and I won't understand what you're saying. So could we have another presentation, or even a written comment that is submitted to all the council people, so we could spend some time looking at it?
I will regret this, but I would be happy to put together a PowerPoint of what I'm talking about.
Okay.
I heard that the city attorney will be preparing
With
the
no
PowerPoint.
typos.
Yeah, that's the problem. PowerPoint is the problem.
And I'd like to look at pictures, and I can't listen to people talk
And
anymore.
just
I'm sorry.
as a point of reference, we receive several hundred development orders a year. So the volume of those applications is high enough that that would be a meeting that would need to take place more than once a month just to work its way through. Just
Great.
something to consider.
Thank you very much. Is there, if there's no further comments, I say Jackie?
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. So we do have a case scheduled for the October 20th meeting. It's the Channel 30 CPD. This would be the third time that they've been scheduled. And we did mailing
This is the
notifications to
tower, right?
Mediterra. So if you could take that into consideration. And then I know in November, we have 2 cases that we would like to schedule, but we have not advertised or sent notifications. So we do have flexibility with that meeting.
No, that's great, thank you. So we have
What is-
13 days, it sounds like, before the next scheduled meeting where the notices have gone out. Derek, can you?
Sure.
Have a
I can prepare.
coaching session, not even
Yes,
coaching, that's the wrong word.
I can do that. I mean, the problem is really, other than Ms. Kanikowski, was the only one I had an opportunity in time to do prep work with before they joined the council. And so,
Right.
Doing it in mass is probably the best way to do
So,
it.
so we can vote tonight, get a full complement, get a full board, and over the next 13 days, you can do a Zoom call or a conference call or
Or we can, if they're.
any of the above, all the above, okay.
Can we
Combination.
come to the training session? Or would that be-
Sure, but they'd be over the zoning board findings, not yours.
Well, I mean,
It'd be fine.
I'd like to know
Yeah.
how they're supposed to do.
It's not, this is not the training that I'm considering. So University of Florida and.
Oh,
the-
this is a professional training.
Yeah, professional
Okay.
training
All right.
on planning,
Maybe I'll
planning
wait.
professionals. It hasn't been held and the trainers have been rotated out for a while. But that would be a better presentation to have someone come and give the basics to everyone. That's what I would recommend for everybody at some
Okay,
point.
then I'll wait for that. Do they use PowerPoint?
So we're to vote for up to 4,
When you get to that item on
we're
the
not
agenda,
there yet.
absolutely.
all right?
But you.
So any more, Amy or Chris, on this
No, I
for
think we're
now,
good.
or are we
I
good?
gather you'd like me to bring back something for your consideration. Okay.
Excellent, thank you. Item C, a resolution appointing members of the City of Bonita Springs Council Board for Land Use Hearings and Adjustments and Zoning Board of Appeals. Mayor Simmons, Green Sheet 20-10-305. And I am a little bit here back in my paperwork, so I'll just read it. The City of Bonita Springs Board for Land Use Hearings and Adjustment and Zoning Board of Appeals currently has 4 vacancies. Ordinance number 00-06, Section 2 states, quote, "The board shall be comprised of 7 members who shall be legal residents of the city, appointed by the mayor with the advice and consent of the city council," end quote. Attached are applications from Bruce Galloway, District 6, Gary Gambrell, District 2, Benjamin Hershenson, District 4, Arthur Knorr, District 6, and Mr. Kelly Macklin, District 6. All 5 have expressed a desire to be appointed. Mr. Gambrell was recently appointed to the LPA and would resign his seat if appointed to the zoning board. Mr. Hershenson currently serves on the Tree Advisory Committee. Mr. Hershenson would also submit his resignation if appointed. Current members of the board include Tony Rocio, District 4, Russ Wynn, District 2, Richard Donnelly, District 4. And the attachments here are of all applications from the 5 applicants. Applications from the 5 applicants, there we go.
Donnelly is District 5.
And Donnelly is District 5. Is that a typo? Where we go? Donnelly's 5, anyway.
I don't have a Donnelly.
Donnelly.
I don't have a Donnelly.
Down here, Richard
Citing the
Donnelly,
current
District,
ones.
oh, okay, yeah, the current are Tony
Oh, gotcha.
Rocio, District 4, Russ Wynn, District 2, and Richard Donnelly, District 5. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate that. So, council, are we good to vote?
Yeah.
Okay, let's vote.
To vote for 4 or vote against the one that you don't? Well, we have to vote for 4.
I
Vote
checked,
Right.
I
Vote
checked
for
the
four.
4 I wanted already,
I
and she did
voted
too.
positively.
So up to 4, but we don't have to vote for 4, correct? Kind of like when we were
We need 4
selecting
people on there.
city planners a couple years ago.
Let's start with 4. Let Debbie tally them, and if for some reason there isn't 4 people, then
Well,
we'll deal with the
we
aftermath.
want 4, as a council, do we want to appoint 4 people?
Yes.
Or do we want to
Yes.
just get to a quorum?
No.
I believe we should go to 4 people.
I think we need to
4.
fill it.
So vote
We
for
need to
4.
fill it.
4. We got to train them.
Okay, so Councilman Corey will not be voting for 4 members. I heard him say that, but I think everybody else will be voting for 4.
Count fast.
Thank you.
Are these public records?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so we'll give Deb a minute, or do we want to just hang on a minute, or do we want to move along?
Move along. Well, we have to wait.
Yeah, and then we have to vote on it, so I guess we'll wait just a minute.
Well, we can't do the next one.
That's true. Very good, that's true.
But may I ask a question about the next one?
Yeah.
How in the past have you determined, because you just nominate the person that's the chairperson, or does the...
Normally, people express an interest.
They express an interest?
And if we think back, we had a term limit on a member that wished to stay
Right, I
as the
remember that.
chairperson. So we had that discussion. That individual has resigned.
But the board doesn't express it, I mean, they don't elect their own chairman and recommend.
The board has made recommendations
They
in the
make,
past.
yeah, just as a curiosity.
And I would hope that this new board, whoever this new board is, if any of those members wish to send out an email expressing their First Amendment rights, that it would not cause a problem. If we can touch on that, just Derek, in our training or our coaching, so that they're aware of that fact.
Well, one of the things that we've discussed in the past, and should wait till we kind of restructure things, but rules of procedure specific to the boards would be
Right.
advisable, so that those boundaries are set.
Thank you.
Okay, we have Bruce Galloway with 7. We have Gary Gambrell with 5. Ben Hershenson with 5. Arthur Knorr, 3. And Kelly Macklin, 7. So Bruce Galloway and Kelly Macklin have 7. Gary Gambrell and Ben Hershenson have 5. And Arthur has 3.
All right, so we have clear 7, 7, 5, 5, and 3, okay?
Okay.
And,
Just approve that slate.
Yes, so moved.
yeah, so if we can approve the slate, I was gonna do my recall on the names, but okay, if the 4 highest vote getters could be appointed,
Second.
I'll make that motion in a second, okay? Further discussion, council?
Could we
Roll
just
call.
Could we just repeat the names?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Repeat the
Deb?
winners, please.
Bruce Galloway, 7. Gary Gambrell, 5. Ben Hershenson, 5. And Kelly Macklin, 7. So it would be Bruce Galloway, Gary Gambrell, Ben Hershenson, and Kelly Macklin.
Okay, thank you.
So moved, and a second. Further discussion, council? Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Carr?
Aye.
Mayor Simmons?
Aye.
Councilman Corey?
Aye.
Councilman Gibson?
Aye.
Councilman Forbes?
Aye.
Councilwoman Carumba?
Aye.
Councilman Purdon?
Aye.
Great, thank you very much. Now, item D is a resolution appointing a chair to the Board for Land Use Hearings and Adjustment and Zoning Board of Appeals. Given what, and Amy, this begs your question. What I'd like to do is I'd like to appoint a temporary chair for the next meeting, and then let the board discuss it amongst themselves and come back with a recommendation. And I'd like to offer up the name of Tony Rocio to be the temporary chair of the next meeting, and then after that meeting, they could make a recommendation amongst themselves to come back to council for approval, if that's okay with everybody.
And just for the record, so everyone's clear, Mr. Rassio is the only member of the existing board who did not respond yet, saying they did not want to be the chair, so.
There he goes. There he goes.
Fair enough. Fred, you missed that meeting a couple years ago, and you got a lot of committee assignments, so I guess that, okay, but in fairness, does that sound good to everybody?
Yeah, it's great. Second,
Okay, so I'd like to nominate Tony Rocio as the temporary chair for the next meeting. Is there a second? And a second? Okay, further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mayor Simmons?
Aye.
Councilman Corey?
Aye.
Councilman Gibson?
Aye.
Councilman Forbes?
Aye.
Councilwoman Carumba?
aye.
Councilman Purton?
Aye.
Councilwoman Clark? Aye.
Great, thank you, everybody. Okay, item 12, a first reading.
Actually, this is where I suggested we
Oh,
add
the public comment? There you go, Mike, very good. Thank you, so we're going to take public comment at this time. If there's members of the public that would like to speak, please come forward. Run!
Ladies first. Ladies first.
Ladies first, Rick, how's that? Tie goes to the, yes,
Thank you. Thank you. And again, I'm actually here for something that was on the agenda earlier, and that's the, sorry, Jesse, blue-green algae in the lakes in Bonita Bay. I don't know what Bonita Bay wants or expects the city to do on this issue, because it really isn't a city issue. And while it's all well and good, I'd like to point out once again, after a couple of rainy days, I live on Carnoustie Court. I live on the closed golf course. We have standing water again in our community, in the swales. I have yet to see a major concern from the city to help with this matter, other than let's just wait and see what happens in the future, the development or water mitigation. With standing water comes the concerns of mosquitoes, and there have been confirmed cases of West Nile, both in Collier and Lee County, and we need the water to drain. The lake behind our home on the golf course property is being choked by lake lettuce, reeds, and other vegetation, and it has not been maintained properly. This water drains into Spring Creek and Estero Bay. I would like the property owner, the current property owners, to clean up the lake and surrounding drainage areas. We cannot continue to wait for 1 or 2 years. We need some type of water management now. When we purchased our home 22 years ago, we were told that we owned the property to the lake and we were to maintain our side. Since the property has been surveyed, we have found out that we do not own to the lake. We have just been taking care of it for 22 years. Again, the lakes and the drainage areas need to be cleaned up and taken care of now to prevent standing water and to provide proper drainage. I'd like you to consider the city stepping in and doing something to help this community, because the swales are absolutely full, they smell, and they're breeding mosquitoes. Thank you.
thank you very much. Barbara? Other members of the public? Rick?
Yeah, Rick Steinmeier. I want to compliment Bonita Bay and the mayor for working on this problem. It sounds like there was a problem there and is working on it. And now Bonita Bay is not the only gated community in the city. And I question whether, I hate regulations. I'm a Republican. I don't like to regulate, but unless somebody who's concerned, is like the mayor was concerned about what he saw and brought it up, are there problems going on that we don't know about? And I don't know how to adjust that. I guess the South Florida Water District or somebody ought to be, Board of Health or somebody ought to be looking at these lakes or these ponds, or whether they got fish or mosquitoes or whatever they got. So, but I say I don't like regulations, but I do like clean water. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Other members of the public that would like to speak? I got a stiff neck, I apologize. It's hard to reach that box. Okay, we're going to move along now to item 12, the first reading and public hearing of the following ordinances. Derek?
All right.
Unless you want to let Matt take over your duties.
He looks ready. He looks,
Okay.
he's primed and ready. The first is a first reading and public hearing, an amendment of the Bonita Springs Land Development Code, Chapter 4 zoning and 6 signs relating to the old US 41 redevelopment overlay district, sections 4-866 through section 4-885 to repeal and replace the old US 41 redevelopment overlay district with the downtown form-based code for the downtown district, repeal and replace section 6-116 permanent signs on old US 41 from Bonita Beach Road to Rosemary Street with the new form-based code recommendations providing for conflicts of law, severability, codification, scrivener's errors, modifications that may arise in consideration of public hearing, and effective date.
Move,
Motion to approve.
just move to second reading.
Yeah, motion to approve and move forward. And there's been a second. John, I know you did a round of calls, and maybe now's, well, we're just going to a second reading, correct? So we can, I know you made a round of calls. I was negligent in getting back to you, but can you just give us a quick thumbnail?
That was a different
Oh, Mike
item.
Fegon.
Yes.
All
The
right.
item I was calling you about was different than the item that's being presented right now, but I could go into that if you would
It
like.
made me think of you, so.
I appreciate that, Mr. Mayor. It's always nice to be
All
thought
right,
of.
great. And Mike, I apologize.
Not a problem at all. Mike Fegon for the record, Community Development. We do have DPZ available through the Zoom. They do have a brief presentation, but again, since this is just first reading, they'll also be available for second reading, which is when the adoption takes place. It's council's pleasure if you just want to move it or if you want to go forward with the presentation.
Council, what's your preference?
Move it. Move it.
Okay? Thank you, Mike.
All right. Do
I
we
know
need-
you won't be insulted.
Do we need
Okay,
pu-
so we have a motion and a second, and then we're going to have any public comment?
Yeah.
No,
No,
Amy.
I was just going to say we need to have public comment.
Yes, oh, thank you. Anybody from the public that would like to speak at this time? Okay, and council, it seems like everybody's good. There's been a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Well, actually, we have to wait on Jesse to get back.
Why?
You're not, if, what I learned in the ethics meeting is we're not allowed to proceed because it'd be like abstaining with him not here, so.
Oh, yes, you're right.
If we're present
But
at
he
the
also-
meeting, we
he
have to
also-
vote on every item unless we
However,
have a
he has
reason
not
to
been
abstain.
present for any portion of this hearing. So it's more like he's absent. You have a, under Chapter 286, you have a obligation to vote on all items unless you have a conflict.
Let me ask you this, council. Would anybody else like to take a restroom break? Do we want to take a 5-minute break?
Reasonable
You did, you
solution.
do? Okay, you snuck out earlier?
Well, there's one
Okay, we'll just
scheduled-
wait for
There's one scheduled after 13.
Jesse to get
anyway.
back.
Well, do we have to recap it for him?
We didn't have any discussion.
So we could do the round and then when he comes in, ask him.
Derek,
Can we skip to
do
B?
you have a preference?
I have to go to the bathroom. I didn't think I could get out of the next couple meetings. I thought I had to be here, There's no more autographs to sign, there's nothing.
Yeah.
So,
Matt, were you getting autographs earlier? Is that what? No. No?
Can we do B?
it would be the same issue.
We approve the minutes.
Oh, do we have to?
They're all
approve it?
ordinances, yeah.
All right, let's approve the minutes then. Here we go. Here we go.
All right, buddy, we're waiting for you to vote. Okay, there's been a motion to approve in a second. Derek, is there any recap for Councilman Purdon that we need to give?
This is just moving the form-based code for the downtown district in Old 41 to second reading.
Okay. Fabulous. There's been a motion and a second, and we'll give another last call for public. Seeing none, roll call, please.
Councilman Corey?
Aye.
Councilman Gibson?
Aye.
Councilman Forbes?
Aye.
Councilwoman Caramba?
Aye.
Councilman Purdon?
Aye.
Councilwoman Carr?
Aye.
Mayor Simmons?
Aye.
So maybe before the next item, I want to sort of touch on what Councilman Gibson.
Take a bathroom break?
No, Gibson pointed out. So this is, Florida has had for what I like to call the no cop-out rule for a long time. You can't just claim a conflict or, it's my neighbor and I like him and I don't want to vote on something. You're required to vote on any item that comes before the council. You can vote no. If you have, they did change the law recently to allow, if there is a perception of a conflict, because there's often accusations of conflicts, even though there may not technically be a conflict under Florida law. So you would either have to abstain for a conflict or not a conflict, but There has been many instances over the years where people went out to the bathroom, things like that. Some accusations have been made that they were done as pocket vetoes. Or if your rules of procedure said that if someone wasn't present during a vote, they constituted a member on the prevailing side for reconsideration at a subsequent meeting. There has been abuse in the past. So that's what the purpose of that. So from now on, we will follow our bathroom breaks.
Accordingly. Okay, very good. Thank you. Item B, Mr. Rooney.
Item B is an ordinance of the City Council of Bonita Springs, Florida, adopting the 2020 5-year capital improvement program annual update, providing for legislative findings, providing for severability, providing for exclusion from codification, and providing for an effective date.
Mr. Mayor, we do have Ann Wright, our finance director, available if you'd like a presentation, but this is just an adoption via ordinance of our capital improvement plan that was adopted as a
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion to approve in a second. Council, is there further discussion? Members of the public? Okay, seeing none. We are, roll call, please.
Councilman Gibson.
Aye.
Councilman Forbes.
Aye.
Councilwoman Caramba.
Aye.
Councilman Purdon.
Aye.
Councilwoman Carr.
Aye.
Mayor Simmons.
Aye.
Councilman Corey.
Aye.
Okay, great. Item C, Derek.
An ordinance of the City of Bonita Springs, Florida, amending Chapter 4 zoning of the Land Development Code, clarifying development standards relating to single and two-family residential developments and mobile home zoning districts, and providing for severability, conflicts, codification, scrivener's errors, and providing for an effective date.
So move to the second reading.
Second.
Second. Oh.
Okay, motion to move forward in a second. Council, is there further discussion? Anybody from the public? Okay, roll call, please.
Councilman Forbes.
Aye.
Councilwoman Caramba.
Aye.
Councilman Purdon.
Aye.
Councilwoman Carr.
Aye.
Mayor Simmons.
Aye.
Councilman Corey.
Aye.
Councilman Gibson.
Aye.
Item D, Derek, you're almost off the hook.
Almost, yeah.
Almost.
No, there's another one.
There's another one.
An ordinance of the City of Bonita Springs, Florida, amending Chapter 4 zoning, Article 6 supplementary district regulations, Division 30, property development regulations, Subdivision 3, subdivisions of the Land Development Code, providing for permitted encroachments relating to mechanical equipment, and providing for severability, conflicts, codification, scrivener's errors, and providing for an effective date.
Motion to move to second reading.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion to move it to a second reading in a second. Council, any discussion? Further discussion? Anybody from the public? Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Caramba.
Aye.
Councilman Purdon.
Aye.
Councilwoman Carr.
Aye.
Mayor Simmons.
Aye.
Councilman Corey.
Aye.
Councilman Gibson.
Aye.
Councilman Forbes.
Aye.
Great, thank you.
Point of-
Derek? Yes.
Point of privilege?
Yeah.
I think this one, we're going to have a little more of a discussion.
Do you want to take a 5-minute break?
Yeah, could we just take our break early?
Sure, it's 8:02, why don't we reconvene at 8:10? Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
It looked like there was only maybe initial discussion, 3 beach clubs, 4 beach clubs where they possibly could make the location work, 1 commercial property that could possibly make the location work. Upon deeper review, it looks like there's only 1 beach club that would be able, by right, under the current interpretations and current definitions of the code, be able to locate that. That would be Mediterra. They do have a general commercial future land use designation. They also have a commercial zoning designation. The other beach clubs have a variety of commercial and residential designations, which would make current implementation of that difficult unless our interpretations of uses on those properties were to change. So at this point, if you were to lift the prohibition on Little Hickory Island, the possibility of a food truck locating out there under the current regulations and under the current interpretations of uses out there would limit, I'll say 1 or 2 simply because I don't want to say that I've looked at every single property and analyzed all the possible alternatives, but I say that simply out of an abundance of caution and not because I can point to those properties in particular. So based upon the land use patterns, the size and construction of those sites, prohibition or no prohibition, I just don't think that the opportunities really exist there under the current development patterns, under the current definitions of uses, and under the current parking standards that would allow, I will say 1 or 2 out there just to be cautious.
How does the deed restrictions work? I mean, does that blanket every property out there where they're not allowed to do it, or?
Deed restrictions are privately enforced. We do not look to intentionally provide conflicts with that. What would happen here is just like any other residential property or any other development within the city of Bonita Springs, you would simply have the standards of the code apply. If a deed restriction prohibited a use, then that would be prohibited by the deed restrictions. It would not necessarily be prohibited by the Community Development Office, although there are occasions we work with certain communities on how their deed restrictions work. I have not reviewed the deed restrictions for Little Hickory Island in quite some time, and I'm not a practicing attorney, so I don't know if you want my opinion on exactly how those would be enforced or what their legitimacy is. That's not what I do. I simply know that in terms of our enforcement of it, they would be treated the same as the rest of the city if that prohibition was removed. And in this particular case, application of that would not result in any more than one or possibly two trucks, and I say that just to be cautious.
Okay, and just a question on the Old 41 aspect. I think at the last meeting you said even exempting Old 41 to where they can't go, if it was down at the industrial area, they are allowed to go there.
They are specifically permitted in the innovation zone, which was previously the industrial designation. It's had a handful of names. I think it was Zone 11 before that. That property generally encompasses Bonita Beach Road on the south, Tennessee Street on the north, Old 41 on the east, and Industrial Street on the west. So in that area, the food trucks would be permitted under your current proposal for the form-based code and would also be backed up with comprehensive plan amendments that you looked at for first reading tonight. However, that would be the only location in the overlay where they would be permitted under the current regulations.
On Old 41.
Correct. Well, in the Old 41 overlay.
Right, right. So, I mean, I've heard you say it, but can you say it again for the folks at the beach that have a concern?
Oh, in terms of the implications of this?
Yes.
Based upon our research on this and looking at how it would actually be applied, based upon the current development patterns, based upon the current interpretations of uses out on that island, it appears to us that I cannot, without any good conscience, tell you that there'd be any more than one or two food trucks that could locate out there based upon the current situation. And if...
Are you talking by the restaurant that's down there, the fire?
No, sir, that is not one that I would include, simply because that shopping center, I call it a shopping center, there's a handful of businesses there, were built below the current standard of parking. So they do not have additional parking that they could sacrifice or use for food trucks.
Well, there were comments here earlier tonight about kind of the western edge of Bonita Beach Road, but not quite at the beach, kind of past the 7-Eleven. We heard comments about that. What areas are you saying could possibly be zoned down at the beach?
That property by the 7-Eleven would not be included in this discussion, simply because that is out of Little Hickory Island and would fall under your Bonita Beach Road overlay standards and any potential changes to the ordinance for food trucks. So that discussion is entirely different than the discussion we're having here. If someone wanted to come in, we have had a pre-application meeting on that site. They have brought in some plans. They had a neighborhood information meeting with the public that we require before they file plans. However, I believe, and I'm providing third-hand information to you, but the outcome of that meeting was not positive, and as a result, they have not filed that plan with us.
So where are the locations, John? Let me ask, when you're saying one, possibly two, where would that be?
Well, like I was saying, Mr. Mayor, I say that out of an abundance of caution simply because somebody, if they decide to get creative with this particular piece of property, they might find something that I have not seen. So I'm not going to say there is no chance for a food truck to be located on Little Hickory Island. What I'm saying is that the difficulty in locating one is going to be quite high. And if somebody does find a place for one, it would be unique.
So there wouldn't really be a problem if we just prohibited it there, then you don't have to worry about it.
Based upon the analysis that we've done, I think that if you leave that prohibition in or if you remove it, I think the difference, if you look at food trucks as being a bad thing, the worst case scenario is 2 food trucks. And I say that just to be cautious.
Thank you, Amy. Fred?
Yeah, the reason I favor excluding Hickory Island has nothing to do with the beaches and all that. The roads out there can't handle any more traffic. Hickory Boulevard has got all it can handle, can't be widened. The streets out there are very narrow, so if any food trucks that are out there, they're going to cause more traffic in an area, and that's going to cause more of a traffic snarl. That's why I would vote for it, not because it's Hickory Island, but because of the narrow roads.
And there are a number of things to consider out there, Mr. Mayor. I mean, this is not a simple good or bad question, to be perfectly honest with you. And the good thing is, if you have food trucks out there, there's fewer people that leave the beach during lunchtime or supper time to go somewhere else and then come back to the beach. The negative impact is that you have people that the roads and properties are narrow. So finding a location and having that function without impacting adjacent properties would be very difficult.
Well, I'd like to keep Hickory Island prohibiting, and as well as the section of Old Downtown.
So with the motion on the floor where we have the beach currently, and we have Old 41 is currently in there. With the beach, I just want to make sure I completely get this. The city can't override deed restrictions anyways, right? And you're saying that at a max, you could only potentially see 2 places where it could even happen, hypothetically. So again, this, to me, this goes to this really being a microcosm of how we've done policy in the past. And to me, unless I'm unaware of it, I don't believe they seceded from the city of Bonita Springs. So I think they should be under the same rules as everybody else. So if we have an entitlement issue, you know, I mean, somebody's like, well, you know, they can't do it in Bonita Bay, they can't do it in Pelican Landing, they can't do it. Okay, so you don't see Bonita Bay or Pelican Landing trying to get out of it. So it's not being punitive towards the beach, it's making the beach the same as everybody else in the rest of the city. So for me, it is really just the conceptual idea that the island is somehow different than the rest of the city. And to me, I just don't think it's appropriate. If there was a reason, I would be okay with that. But seeing as there's really no net difference, as you just stated, I think continuation of a policy that insinuates that somehow the beach is better than the rest of the city is the wrong direction. From Middle Bonita, that's where I feel. So that, again, I'd like to keep it exactly as I have it, and I'd love to hear what the rest of you have to think about it.
Amy? Thanks, Jesse.
I don't agree. We have treated different parts of the city in different ways. In fact, the whole Bonita Beach Road vision study gives that difference, I forgot, transect or something they call that. So there's reasons why we want to have, and even our land development code has different rules out there for a variety of reasons. So I totally disagree with that reasoning. And I think since it's not going to really, I'm in favor of keeping the prohibition on that area and along with the old 41 area, because it makes things a little more certain, and why complicate it? So I don't, that's the way I'm going to vote. I do have some, well, do you want to finish talking about this? Because I have some other issues about this too, is that I think when we talked about this last time that I said I was interested in any recourse that could be done if for some reason some approvals were given and then they caused difficulties to the surrounding neighborhoods. I know that's written in here that if they don't comply with the criterion that their application for the location could be rescinded, but the criterion are very minimal, really. So I wondered if we might want to do, because this is kind of a new thing for the city, that in any case, except for the food truck parks, which I think need some longevity, we might want to have it sunsetted, only hold for, give the approvals for the locations for a certain period of time, where they'd have to be reapply, and then maybe after the second reapplication, then it could become more permanent. That's what I consider. And finally, I'm not totally sympathetic to what was presented, that this should probably be tabled, might be best be tabled because of the economic situation that our bricks and mortar entities have. So irrespective of how we end up here with what the nature of this ordinance is, I think I'd like to also discuss, maybe at a later time, to just postpone this, because we have an ordinance already, so it's not like we can't have food trucks, right?
Well,
It's just
the problem is that the ordinance, what we're doing is we're getting rid of the cap. I mean, that was the whole point of the ordinance, and then with the old 41 portion of it, if the overlay's in there, you're not, how are you hurting brick and mortar? There's no brick and mortar out there that they could even put it by. So, I
No,
mean.
but there's restaurants all over the city, so.
No, I'm talking about the beach specifically. Well, I mean,
No, well, we're talking about two different things. Start again.
okay, so I don't understand the argument, the brick and mortar argument for the beach. I understand.
No, I'm talking about the whole city. I am proposing that we at least discuss the idea that we probably should not loosen the standards that we have here with our current food truck ordinance so that our restaurants can recover from this horrible thing that they've been through.
I disagree. I don't think it's our place to be picking winners and losers, period. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not our, I feel as if every time we do this, it's incremental oversteps in us taking on responsibility of things that inherently, due to our charter and the state constitution, are not ours. So,
It's also been an unprecedented.
You don't have to pile on either.
well, in COVID-19, I mean, yeah, obviously there's financial situations that arise due to that percolate over the entire economy. So to say, hey, we should stop because we don't know what the economic ramifications are, by that measure, maybe we should just not do downtown also. Or maybe we should just stop doing everything we're doing because of COVID. It's just, economically, that is not a sound argument, and I just can't get
Well, it was interesting because I met with the Hispanic Alliance last night. And they're very concerned about the jobs in the Hispanic community, especially in the service industry, with the restaurants, and how that the pandemic has affected their income. And it includes the waiters, the waitresses, the dishwashers, the cooks, all the jobs that those people are going through. And all they see when you talk about food trucks is additional competition coming in for our restaurants that have been providing us great service for a lot of years, where there's a lot of people in our community that work there. The restaurants have been hanging on by their fingertips. They've done a lot of innovative things to try to generate income. I know that Old 41, for example, sold everything from hand sanitizers to, 36 eggs in a carton to whatever, just to try to stay alive. And I just hate to see us go down a path with those restaurants, those people, those citizens of our community and their employees, where we're putting those people at further risk. And I think it's only fair that we give them a chance to recover.
There's Hispanic business owners too, they don't just work at the restaurant.
I didn't say that, Jesse,
And the idea of the brick and mortars, again, you're talking about the same thing Amy just was. What we're talking about is the beach. That's what we're talking about. We've already, we've to the point where now Old 41 is in there, right? And if you've ever followed the conversation where we were at last time, I pulled that out, the beach only, left it alone.
Right.
That's where we started. So once again, the fact that we're sitting here talking about Old 41 is irrelevant. That's not what we're discussing. We're discussing the beach. So if we could all stay on top.
Is this true?
Yeah, what do you mean, is it true? Were you here?
I was here, Jesse, and I supported you on your,
Exactly.
yes. And
Okay, so that's what we're talking about.
no,
Why, no, go ahead. I was just going to say Derek for
All you
clarification.
have is a motion on the floor.
What's the
That's
motion?
it.
Rewind the videotape
The
for us
motion
so
maker
we know
can
where we're
restate
at.
his motion, so we're not debating
The
it.
motion was to leave the entire thing alone as it was, except to take the exception for the beach out, because I didn't have any rationale and wasn't given any by their council person or staff as other than tradition as to why it should remain. And at that time, Chris, you agreed with
I'm
me.
sorry you didn't hear Fred Forbes. He did point out
What?
road issues.
Road
traffic.
issues, road
Yeah.
issues.
John, you had made that comment before about tradition. I believe this is kind of how we've always done things. Would you want to elaborate on that?
The prohibition for Old 41 and Little Hickory Island was in the current regulations, and those are simply carried over to the proposed regulations. It's not much more complicated than that.
So again, we're talking about the beach only. We're not talking about the restaurants. We're not talking about Old 41. Right, that's it. That's all we're talking about.
So
Yes.
should we vote on that amendment, or how can we introduce, I'm asking a question, because I want to introduce the notion that we defer vote on it. If we want to still explore that. I don't think we should go ahead with this, and I don't know how to do this, given where we started.
You can obviously vote down the motion, or whoever is the seconder, I can't recall, withdraw their second. I do recommend opening it up to public comment, because it's still an adoption hearing. I will add one more wrinkle into the situation, which is that during the last legislative session, there was a preemption bill filed. And so currently there are two restrictions that are placed on local governments by the state with regards to mobile food vendors. One is you can't have an outright ban. You can ban locations, you can ban areas, but you can't have an outright ban, and you cannot be involved in permitting. So our current structure is based on a permitting scheme. Now, the effective date was July 1st. It does not contain a provision relating to grandfathering status specifically. There could be a good argument that the current ordinance will be upheld, but I think at some point we do need to address food trucks and move away from permitting and move towards a zoning-based approach so that we don't run the risk of being challenged and having it thrown out and then having it thrown wide open. So right now we're on the path. Let's see where the path goes. If that'll, I'll
Well,
brainstorm
Derek, and
other
it's
ideas.
past tense, because obviously the beach is part of the city, has been, and gladly so, right, hopefully on both ends. But what is the history of these issues when they incorporated as part of the city, right? We've heard for years of what maybe was agreed to or not agreed to.
I'm not following, Mr. Mayor.
Well, the history of when we incorporated, when the beach became part.
The city, the beach, the Little Hickory was part of the original incorporation. So
Correct.
that was a citywide vote. They didn't annex in. I mean,
Correct.
to just address some of the issues from a legal perspective, the city is agnostic to deed restrictions. City can't override them, can't repeal them, can't do anything. So to the extent there are deed restrictions, even on some of the properties that John's talking about may fit within these general standards in the proposed ordinance and may be opened up, they may still be restricted from deed restrictive uses.
So,
Now-
and I'm sorry to belabor this, but it's important. All right, so with that, thank you. I'm going, just creating the foundation, if you will, on the deed restrictions, John, and I know it's in the abundance of caution. Where would the deed restrictions currently in place on the beach allow for food trucks?
John doesn't know, and
Well, then who does know?
whoever the property owner is.
It was
Look,
platted in 1941, all Little Hickory Island was platted, commercial and residential, in 1941, and it's still there.
So I would, look, so we're voting on an issue here where there's a lot of what-ifs and what-abouts. Why are we doing that?
Council directed back in February or March to bring back a food truck ordinance to move forward, opening up the city to food trucks. That's
But,
why
all
we're
right,
here.
so, John, there's no way we're gonna know about the beach based on the deed restrictions.
As I understand it, the problem with old deed restrictions is.
We need it, we need to
don't
move away
know.
from deed restrictions have no basis.
In terms of your application of this citywide, I look at it as a separate path. The city enforces zoning regulations throughout the city. There is no portion of the city that is exempt from your zoning regulations.
So just to exhaust the argument a little further, Bonita Bay has deed restrictions.
Correct.
Other neighborhoods have deed restrictions.
Correct.
So do we know what those deed restrictions say in terms of food trucks?
What we've placed in terms of communities is that if a community wants to have a food truck, we put locational standards and development standards in there for those food trucks to be located and where they can be permitted. So that can take place. The difference between a Bonita Bay and Little Hickory Island is the fact that Bonita Bay was more of a community that had a lot of its infrastructure in place. And I don't just mean water and sewer. I mean, you have parks, you have recreation, you have areas within there that are not just residential. For Little Hickory Island, most of those lots are residential. You don't have community recreational, and I mean just Little Hickory Island community recreational areas where Little Hickory Island could say, the association could say, we want to put a food truck here. So it's not really apples and apples. Both communities have deed restrictions. The application of those deed restrictions in the communities themselves are very different.
Clear as mud to me, but I understand.
Let me-
understand what you're saying,
Could we-
but it's not very
I-
clear, and I'm
here-
not blaming that on you.
The problem is, we can't go down the path of deed restrictions. One, we don't know what they are. Two, by introducing, and even the concept that we review them, we're maybe making promises to communities that we're not going to enforce and review. And so, I don't think it's helpful. I think there are general standards for the administrative approval of locations. Those standards include things, as John pointed out, is having adequate parking for your primary use and the use. There are only a limited number of locations on Little Hickory that have commercial uses, period, and that could allow it under the zoning. And if they could, they are restricted sites from a development standpoint that they may be almost impossible for them to achieve it. So we may be talking about all this in the extreme hypothetical, and it may not be an issue.
Is what's on the, are we voting on the?
Which is my problem
Are
with
we
it.
voting on the amendment to
Correct.
To what? To prohibit?
Thank you,
To
Amy. I
remove
feel
the
the same way.
restriction with respect to Hickory Island.
So
That is
we're-
the only item on the agenda.
The amendment to remove the restriction. I call the question.
Well, okay, but we've also had some discussion on.
And you need
Go
to
ahead,
open it
Jerry.
up for public comment. That's all I'm saying before you
Yep.
take a final vote.
Okay. And a yes vote means what? And a no vote means
Means the
what?
ordinance as drafted with the removal of Hickory Island from a prohibited list goes forward. So
What about,
The ordinance is not
What's
drafted that way,
yes?
by the way.
It's not drafted that way.
It's not drafted that way.
it's drafted with Little Hickory prohibited.
and it
Oh,
also
you said
says,
it, oh, yes.
Yes,
Yeah,
so
you
that comes
said
out,
just
that
the
provision.
opposite.
I highlighted the provisions that were up for
Okay.
discussion in the last meeting,
well, what about, it says in downtown district?
because it was discussed, but the motion that was left was just for Little Hickory.
Let me just, and I'm gonna do this if it's okay with the council. Are we sure we want to vote on this tonight? Do we feel this is clear? Amy, and I'll just pick on you, Amy. Do you feel that,
I thought I wanted to postpone this, but given what Derek said and the fact that we are prohibited from using a permitting system for the food trucks, our existing ordinance is not operative. Is that correct?
It could
According
be,
to
it
state.
could be, it could be
it
deemed
could be- it
inoperative.
could
I
be-
would argue that it's
that it's
grandfathered.
so
but-
one of, I guess maybe I remember now that you put it, I forgot that that's one of the reasons why we said we should revise our processes. So I think we have to vote on it. Whether we vote on this or don't vote on it, it still creates a problem. So I think we should vote on it.
There's got to be a better solution.
If you vote with the
But-
motion that's on the table, you will approve the possibility of food truck parks and the zoning-based determination, location-based determination of food truck facilities throughout the city, with the exception of Little Hickory Island. If the motion fails, then the ordinance, and the question before you is, unless another motion amending the ordinance comes forward, would be to approve it citywide with the exception of Little Hickory and the downtown. Just to sort of clarify, you can go either way, but you have to deny the first motion to get to the second.
And point of clarification.
and we're gonna go
on
up and
that.
down the table,
Food
so
truck-
everybody's gonna have their
Food
say.
truck
Thank you.
parks are different situation here that have to have their own vote.
Yes, that comes to council.
Same deal. So we're really talking about trucks, we're not talking about parks. I just want to clarify for anybody listening, we're not talking about a food truck park, we're talking about food trucks in the ordinance specifically as it relates to Little Hickory.
Thank you, Jesse. Laura?
Well, I agree with Amy that we should not really move ahead, that brick and mortar are going to be hurt, and Old Hickory should be off the table completely.
Okay, thank you. Chris?
I agree with Laura. I mean, if all it takes is a motion to rescind whatever motion's on the floor now, I'm willing to make that motion, but I agree. We need to let these restaurants recover. We need to let those employees feel comfortable that they've got a job, and we need to let those employees recover as well.
Thank you.
The trucks can go other places. It's just not Hickory Boulevard, down on Hickory Island, and in the section of downtown that we want to create a certain ambiance.
A certain ambiance that's different and better than the rest of the city.
We're going to hold that thought. Mike, we're going to...
I mean, that's essentially what you just said.
We can go back for closing comments, if you will, but Mike, we're going to move down the bench.
I agree with the principle of, not treating it like just having a blanket one to do the whole city. And that's what we'd be voting on. But like Amy, I believe it should be voted on tonight since we are out of sync with the state. And yeah, I'm ready to vote on it. If it doesn't go through with taking, having everything in, then.
I'll move.
And
I'll
then,
remove it.
hang on, Jesse. Fred, and then we'll go back to you, Jesse.
I just want to make sure if we vote no, then the ordinance stays as it is. Hickory Island is still excluded from food trucks and no food trucks downtown.
Correct, but the ordinance itself does not go into effect until you adopt an ordinance.
So
Yeah.
So we'll
we'd need another vote.
I will adjust my amendment. Obviously, I don't have the votes, but I mean, you guys have made that clear. I've explained to you my issue is if it's a hypothetical that we're talking about, we're doing regulation for regulation's sake, and we're doing it in a manner which is, in my opinion, not an appropriate way to look at it. But it is what it is. We need to move forward, and if the only way we're going to move forward is for me to put it back as it was,
Well, we could vote it.
put it back as it was.
Let's just vote.
Right.
And if
I
we
will
don't agree.
second that.
Let's.
Time out,
yeah,
Derek.
How about we do this?
I'll just remove my second, and
Okay.
if you want to
Yeah.
withdraw your
Done.
motion,
Okay,
then we go
and then
back
I
to-
would open it up to the public, and then someone can, I think we did actually make an original motion to approve last meeting before the amendment was added.
Yeah.
But I think, for clarification's sake, we should just have someone make a new motion to adopt the ordinance as is or with any other changes.
And Derek, doing so, adopting that as it is, would mean what?
Would mean
I
food
know,
trucks,
but-
food trucks could go anywhere in the city except for downtown and Little Hickory.
Okay, I make that a motion.
Second.
Second.
Okay, so there's been a
Okay.
motion and a second, and now we're going to hear
He withdrew the second,
from the
so-
public?
Okay, yes, now hear from the.
Okay, public comment now.
This is ridiculous. You need have to refer to your book.
When it comes to this stuff, I don't want to talk.
Did you correct?
Okay, 1941, a couple, a husband and wife, purchased Little Hickory Island from the Corfranian Society. At the time, they platted the whole Little Hickory Island. So many commercial lots on one end, and Doc's Beach House was the last of the commercial properties on the beach. They also had a restriction that they could not have a mobile home or trailer on the beach. So some smart person went and took a trailer and put it on stilts and put a deck out on it. It was called Mr. B's. It is currently Doc's Beach House, which is built from a mobile home up in the air and wired all the way up and down and everything else. That's how they broke the law. The intent of the law was not to have trailers on Little Hickory Island. Now you have commercial property, you have Big Hickory Fishing Nook. On the one end, you have residential commercial with the condominiums is a residential commercial on the north end, and you have residential commercial with the beach and tennis club on that end, and you have Doc's Beach House on the beach as the last commercial property on that end on the beach, period. Trailers are not allowed on the beach. A mobile home food, you have, the road is a Lee County road. Okay, we do not own Lee County Road. We own Old 41. Okay, the parks, Bonita Springs does not own a park on the beach. Those accesses in the regional park belong to Lee County. They have a lady in the regional park that sells food and beach chairs and stuff under the county with the county, Lee County's Parks Department approval. They've tried that a couple times down at Beach Access 10, which they've tried to have a person serve food there. It's never worked out because there's not enough turnover. The city doesn't own any beach. The city owns 2 parking lots on the north end. One holds 20, and then on the other side, on the west side of Hickory Boulevard, there's there's a boat ramp and 20 parking spots. That's the only property that the city owns on Little Hickory Island. The rest of it is residential. So I don't know where you're going to put a food truck unless you put it in by Big Hickory Fishing Nook, which I don't think they want a competitor out in front of their place, or you put it next to Doc's Beach House, and I don't think they're going to want a competitor, or across the street in the Beach and Tennis Club, and they have a restaurant which is restricted to breakfast and lunch for people that live in the Beach and Tennis Club property, not for the general public. There's a lot of restrictions on Little Hickory Island. And Jesse, I hope you realize that people have rights to restrict their neighborhood. Like Bonita Bay or all these other gated communities have a right to restrict the development in their neighborhood. So I hope that clears it up. And now if you want to put one in the Lee County Parks Department, that's fine. We'll go with them. But the city has no business in it. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Other members of the public that would like to speak on this? Okay, and so Derek, just to be clear, we have a motion and a second to do what?
To adopt the ordinance as written.
And a yes vote means what? And a no vote means what?
Means the city will move away from the permitting process that's in place now that has a current cap to a zoning-based determination of locations for authorized use of food trucks with certain spatial limitations from each other, from incompatible uses, and the allowance of a zoning, the allowance through a hearing process of food truck parks. The only specific areas that would be prohibited from food truck parks will be Little Hickory Island and the Downtown Development District, both of which could only have a food truck incidental to a special event permit, which there are only a limited number of times per year.
So what we're basically saying is we're going to go to the zoning route. But if somebody wants to bring in a food truck, they've got to make a zoning application, and we haven't exactly got all that drafted up yet in terms of the zoning.
No, it's all drafted up.
What we're going to have, if this ordinance is adopted as written, is a situation where if you want to locate one or a maximum of 2 food trucks on a particular property that meets all the development standards, you would file that permit with community development, and it would be approved administratively or denied administratively. If you want a food truck park, that application is a special exception, which goes through the process of zoning board, as we currently have them defined, and then city council. So you would have the ultimate say on a food truck park. It's only the food trucks, when we look at them individually or a maximum of 2 on a commercial piece of property, that are approved for locations administratively.
Okay, council, any other questions or information needed?
Well, I can't support it.
Okay, I just exhausting where we are. Okay, roll call, please.
Councilman Purdon?
Aye.
Councilwoman Carr?
Aye.
Mayor Simmons?
Aye.
Councilman Corey?
No.
Councilman Gibson?
Aye.
Councilman Forbes?
Aye.
Councilwoman Caramba?
Aye.
Okay.
The ordinance is
I know that was exhaustive, but important.
No, it was-
So
All
thank you.
right, we got 3 more ordinances.
Okay, dynamite.
Oh, my God.
I know you're kidding. I'm playing the game with you, Rooney.
No, we don't. City attorney is.
Okay, the next item is an addendum to the FGCU Riverkeeper Agreement. At its adoption by FGCU, they had a question and concern relating to the provision that there's a maximum cap of the grant on a per annum basis, but the contract is actually for 2 years. So we agreed to put an addendum forward. I would also like to recommend that if we go forward with the adoption of this addendum, that we authorize the mayor to execute an additional amendment. I don't see Laura Taylor here, but we've had a recent
Good night.
dispute with FGCU over the naming use of the term, the Bonita Springs Waterkeeper, and when the approvals are granted for joint statements, or whether the press has the, we can use FGCU's name, or they can use the city of Bonita Springs' name. Administratively, between the lawyers, we've sort of agreed on what should happen, but it may need another tweak to the agreement, and that would just be to clarify what's already in the scope, which is that neither party is supposed to involve representations about the other without their consent.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay,
Do that before you.
we need a motion?
Yes.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
I'll make the motion. What was that, Amy?
I said, do that before you do the zoning.
Okay, a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, council, further discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Carr?
Aye.
Mayor Simmons?
Aye.
Councilman Corey?
Aye.
Councilman Gibson?
Aye.
Councilman Forbes?
Aye.
Councilwoman Caramba?
Aye.
Councilman Purdon?
Aye.
And that's it. I'm turning it over to Matt now.
All right, Matt Feeney, you're up. And there's our award because of you in front of you, so thank you.
Thank you. We do have one item, which is really kind of COVID-related. Some funding has become available through the Community Development Block Grant Program, which is administered federally by HUD and then ultimately by Lee County, for $206,000 in COVID-19 recovery money. We recommend approving the sub-grant agreement with Lee County. The funds could be used for a variety of things. However, because they do come through this HUD program, you have to income qualify the folks that will receive the benefit, and they have to basically meet an income test of 80% of the area median income. For Lee County, that's $68,700, which means it would be targeting people that make less than $55,100 annually for a family of 4. That income qualification does have to be done for each recipient. So really what we're recommending is council consider approving the agreement, but also consider that utilizing it for distribution to local food pantries. We would generate an RFQ, have them respond to the city for consideration, and then they would do that income qualification, thus relieving the city of the burden, but also getting the money out where the need is.
Would when the Buffalo Chips, when they do their pancake, when they give out all the breakfasts, would they qualify for that too, or no?
I think that would be part of the response to the RFQ that would be forthcoming.
Okay,
We would have
gotcha.
to delve into that.
Do we have to decide what we're going to spend it on? when we
That's
make-
kind of what I'm asking. I'm asking really for 2 things
No,
there.
but in order to get the grant, do we have to decide, or could we?
It's eligible for a multitude of things,
Mm-hmm.
including acquisition of property if we were doing something COVID-related with the property. But you have to meet this income threshold qualification. We know that our food pantries are in need of food. We see this as a way to get it out to the local community with the organizations we already have. Obviously, we would have to solicit their input and bring that back to city council for consideration.
The only reason I think I prefer such direct services, but there are other things on this list that might be interesting to explore also.
It's a federal program with some serious strings, and
Uh-huh.
so there are other dollars that are, have come down through other agencies that we think have a little less restriction
Uh-huh.
that we'll be talking to city council about, but really our recommendation based on this income qualification component, it's a smaller amount of money, honestly,
Okay.
than what's available with the others is what we've laid out.
Then it's fine with me.
I'll make a motion to approve the sub-grant agreement with.
Second.
And to further follow the recommendation for funding food pantry.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Council, is there further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mayor Simmons?
Aye.
Councilman Corey?
Aye.
Councilman Gibson?
Aye.
Councilman Forbes?
Aye.
Councilwoman Caramba?
Aye.
Councilman Purdon?
Aye.
Councilwoman Clark?
Aye.
Okay, what's next?
Just to mention, as far as the city's COVID update, I know you've seen that the county is looking at opening recreation facilities. We're also evaluating reopening plans to get into phase 3. And then, as I mentioned just a few minutes ago, we will be coming back with some additional COVID-19 monies and some, concepts on distribution as well in the local community.
Okay, outstanding. Okay, Derek, you're good?
I'm good.
Okay, city manager's good. We'll do mayor and council member reports. Fred, we'll start with you.
Well, I just want to bring up one thing, and you probably were going to bring it up. But our sister city is being pounded by Hurricane Delta, surges of the water and all that over it. So I would highly recommend that we authorize staff to write a letter that the mayor would sign, maybe we could all sign it, to the mayor of that city and say that we would be happy to get them information on things that they could do in recovery and put them in touch with our FEMA people that could at least give them advice and counsel.
Okay, thank you, Fred. Mike?
I'm good, thanks.
Chris?
I'm good.
Okay. Laura?
No, I'm good.
Jesse?
Good.
Amy?
I'm really sorry, I have a lot to say.
No.
I'm sorry, I really.
Don't be sorry at
Anyway,
all.
first of all, I just want to mention that I have completed my discussion with all the candidates, and I found it very illuminating in many ways. And I'm sorry that I'm not able to speak with their opponents who are sitting on the council, because I thought it was really good to have an interchange between them. And the methods that I used was basically to go down our objectives and talk about what we have approved and what we're hoping to do with all the objectives. And I also talked about process with them, and some of the things that I thought were troublesome that I thought would be improved. And I have verbal agreements from all of them that they would be amenable to having a workshop or a retreat early on, soon after the election, whoever's elected. So I would hope that the rest of us would agree to it. And I just, if you don't mind, I would like to ask Arlene to at least get us some dates so that after the election, if it's possible that everybody agrees, that we could have one early on. I think that would be helpful, but if if no one else agrees with them, I'll just bring it up again after the November election, because I'm not going to give up, and I think it's important. But I do think it should be early on we don't know, we could have one new person, or we could have three, all right?
I agree with you.
All right.
Yeah,
I'm fine with
But honestly, it was so good to be able to talk about concepts and issues, have a really good exchange with all of them. We miss that. We can't have these discussions because of, we can have them, but they have to be in public. But it was very good for me. I got to know everybody, and I wish I could have it with you two also, but I can't. And I think this has been, you've been made aware of this, that I have been engaged with Ann Wright to try to develop some kind of process by which we could ask the Everglades Wonder Garden to give us some financial statements. Again, with discussions with Arlene, she reached out to the council, so if there's any specific information you think you would like to know about, share it with Arlene, and then we'll just make one inquiry through Ann Wright to the Everglades Wonder Garden. And it was recommended by Arlene that we have one-on-one with the people at spokespersons from Everglades Wonder Garden. And again, I emphasize, I don't want to get into the brouhaha or what happened, but my view is that that's an integral part of Bonita Springs. It's an icon and is an anchor for an important part of our city. So what I need to be comfortable with is that they are on the right path, that we could feel that they're going to be successful, not only this year, but in a couple of years, many years in the future. That's what I'm trying to get at. And again, if anybody else wants to get involved with these finances, please, we'll arrange, they expect to arrange with these one-on-ones with the personnel. And then I'll try to summarize. I attended a really interesting Zoom meeting with the Blue Zone Project. And what's interesting about that is they're refocusing on what they call resilient Southwest Florida. They spoke a lot. There were a number of people on the Zoom call, and I couldn't really, it was hard to hear, but so I'm not exactly sure who was speaking, but what the refocus was to expand their current mission, the Blue Zones, on wellness, where it's talks about healthy eating, healthy living, to have people be resilient. And they're looking at this from the perspective of what's happened to the people within our community from COVID. And they focus a lot on mental health services, and they had a lot of good ideas. And what they're trying to do is bring back some of these opportunities for people to speak, to have services to them, because everything we're reading about, suicide rates up, drugs are being used, all this stuff. So I don't think our community is going to be immune to those needs, and they're very concerned. Many people on the call were concerned that once these dollars that are coming in from the federal government with the support, once that's over, that's tended to support the population, but once that's over, they think we're going to really bear the brunt of it. So I think it might be a good thing for the council to be aware of that, so that if we could help and integrate not only with the Blue Zones, but with any people that could help our people and provide mental health services. And that's why I asked the question of Matt when we were just having the CDG, if we could maybe provide some kind of mental health services for people who need it. And then finally, I just would ask some consensus to work with Councilman Forbes, because most of you know that the mask-making project is ended, that I think as a community we've done a remarkable job delivering almost 10,000 masks, 6,000 plus, which were hand-sewn by our people, and given and distributed to all the care agencies within Bonita Springs. Were very well received, and I think it was a remarkable thing. I'd like to have some kind of special recognition for those people, so I want to work with Arlene and Councilman Forbes, because one of the implementers is from his community, and I was a liaison from my community, and I know that Councilman Curry's wife was the liaison for his community, and I think there might have been a couple other communities, but I just would like to have some kind of special thing for them. And I'll bring it back to the council, and if that's okay with you. And that's it. Thank God.
No, thank you very much. I just want to briefly say, obviously, thoughts and prayers go out with our sister city, Isla Mujeres, Mexico. Thoughts and prayers go out with Naples Mayor Teresa Heitman, who has tested positive for COVID-19. I did exchange messages with her today. Very optimistic, very mild case. However, a case nonetheless. And there are ongoing conversations, Amy, as well with the Wonder Gardens. Very much an integral part of our community. I have spoken with former board members, former employees, and with Derek and Arlene extensively about this, so to be continued. And thank you for digging in and getting some answers, Amy. That's very, very important.
Well, we all have to do
You're
it.
not at it alone. I'm sure there's other council members that are looking for some answers as well, so.
Well, I feel like I've been deja vu, and I have to whine a little bit, but we got on At the same time, 2016, I think we were on for 2 months. And then we had a little problem there with the debt that was owed to the city. And so one of my first things I did as on the council was to meet with Everglades Wonder Garden and have kind of the same discussion. I don't want to do it again. This is the last time I'm doing it. So they got to be good for at least 2 years, because then I'll be off the council.
No, but thank you very much. That's very, very important. So with that, we'll move on to the approval of the minutes for September 2nd, 2020, and September 9th of 2020. There's been a motion.
Second.
And a second. Okay, is there further discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilman Corey?
Aye.
Councilman Gibson?
Aye.
Councilman Forbes?
Aye.
Councilwoman Caramba?
Aye.
Councilman Purdon?
Aye.
Councilwoman Carr?
Aye.
Mayor Simmons?
Aye. Okay, public comment. Members of the public that would like to speak, please come forward at this time.
God bless you, good night.
Same to you, Rick.
Okay, no members of the public that would like to speak? Motion to adjourn? We are.